My guest today is Tamara Cook. She survived unimaginable abuse as a child, but instead of escaping that life, she found herself becoming the very person she always feared. Eventually, she was sentenced to 7 years in the Texas prison system. Here's how it all unfolded.
I grew up in Amarillo, Texas, a land of nothing.
Why do you say nothing?
A tree is a tumbleweed. That is no joke. It was dry like the desert. There is literally nothing in Amarillo, Texas. Like if you were going to find a job, you would have to work at like the slaughter plant that they had, like the Tyson thing, a prostitute, because that was like the whole Amarillo Boulevard. And there just wasn't anything to do at all, like even a profession. Like I couldn't even tell you what people do there for professions. Gas station worker. That's it. Like it's a very dry. They're known for not wanting it to expand or grow. So like right now, they're data centers. They're trying to get data centers and stuff there. It's just people bought up a lot of land many years ago, and they don't want it developed. They don't want any big and they don't want any big companies coming in. Although it would provide jobs, they don't want to be disturbed. So there is like nothing there.
What did your family do for work? Your parents?
Before I was 7, my biological father wasn't in the picture, so I don't know what he did. My stepfather was a bus driver on and off, and my mother, before 7, she went to school to be a nurse, so she was a nurse for a short time.
Now, before 7, do you think you had a normal childhood at all?
Before 7, somewhat. I thought it was normal. We were food stamp rich, so we had like things I thought were great because you'd go to somebody else's house and they would have like non-name brand cereal. We had name brand cereal, so I thought we were doing well for ourselves. I did not know that we were living off the government, that we were living in HUD housing or food stamps. And so I thought it was normal, decently for the most part, I think. I don't honestly remember. It's going to sound sad, but I don't remember much of it. I guess they say over time, traumatic experiences kind of makes you block that kind of stuff out. But I couldn't actually give you like a story from before I was 7.
How does that make you feel now when you reflect back on it, just thinking of those years before 7?
Sad. Honestly, it used to kill me. It used to hurt, like to think how I thought life was normal. Like everybody was in this place of chaoticness. Everybody lived in this place of constant fear. People, like this was normal. That's what I thought. And so now looking back, I'm just, for a long time, it was in anger. But now that I've matured and I've grown up and changed the way that I see my life, I use it as a opportunity to not do to my children or to keep an eye out for other kids going through similar situations, to be able to call out some of that.
Did you have siblings or was it just you?
I have 7 siblings and many half siblings. Some I don't know, some I've never met. But I'm the only one from my mother and my father. And then I have 7 half siblings that remained in the house, 1 older sister, and then 4 younger sisters and 2 younger brothers.
What about when you were growing up? What interactions did you have with your siblings before 7?
I was a weirdo. I was very quiet. I didn't play with dolls or Barbies, or I didn't play. I helped dress kids and clean house, and I learned to do dishes at a very young age. And so my interactions with them was kind of more like a babysitter or a mom rather than a child. If that makes sense.
Do you think that's what your mom made you or kind of pushed you to do, or was that something you kind of developed on your own?
I think I did have it in me. I think I'm a very caring person. I have been since I was little. So I paid a lot of attention to things that most people didn't pay attention to, like, oh, they're hungry, they're tired, they're fussy, let me entertain them. As well as, my mom was going to school. And so her and my stepfather didn't even get married until I was 4. So it was just one of those things where I think that unintentionally became my job. And I think that I don't ever think that even before 8-ish, I don't remember them actually telling me, like, go in there and do this or go in there and do that a whole lot. I think it just was instinct that I just stepped up to the plate when things were crazy and did what needed to be done.
Was your stepfather like a father to you in your younger years?
He was. My stepdad, who I love dearly, he did step up to the plate and he did a lot for us. But he too was very broken. He come from a Catholic kind of background where it's not just the Catholic part of it. It's just he was raised differently. And so he did the best that he could. And in the circumstances of, like, my mom and his relationship, it was kind of chaotic. So I think he really tried, and he was there for us. Like, I could go to him, talk to him. But once my mom went down a different path, it kind of was a little bit different.
Does that lead us up to when you're 7 years old, your mom going down a different path?
Yeah.
What happened?
So I had just turned 7, and my mom had got a job at the hospital. BSA in Amarillo. And my stepdad was, I think, driving buses at the time. They had to work a lot. Obviously, at the time, it was only 5 of us. And my mom would soon be pregnant with twins. No, 6 of us. 6 of us. And they had this family friend. His name is Danny. And I think Danny had some mental issues. And I think my parents were aware. If I was aware at 7, I'm sure they were aware. But they needed someone to keep us. And so he would come over and he would keep an eye out on us. And he would play this game called Jaws. And it sounded cool. So every day before we had nap time, the game would go. And the first one out was the first one to go take a nap. And so he would grab your feet and, like, bite your feet. And if you got caught, you had to go lay down. For some reason, I didn't notice it at first, but for some reason, I was always the first one out. Like, he sought me out specifically. And I would always be the first one out to have to go to bed. And I would get so mad I didn't want to play the game, and I would get in trouble because we had to play the game in order to go take a nap, and we had to take a nap every day. And so, I don't know, a couple of weeks after playing the game, Danny would come into my bedroom. Obviously, all the other kids were laying down, and I guess it was a way to get me to go to bed first so that I would be asleep by the time he came in. The first time I kind of remember playing asleep, and I didn't know what to do. Danny would first outside the clothes and then inside the clothes, and it just grew more and more. The sexual abuse started, and I remember just thinking, this is sad to say, but, like, I remember thinking to myself, like, what would this do? How would this play out? And I remember I didn't want to hurt my parents because they were really trying hard. And I never wanted to cause a ruckus. I never wanted to, like, be the reason why a fight would happen, because they fought all the time. And so I didn't say anything until one time specifically, after, I don't know, probably 6 months of this happening almost every day. I thought to myself, what if he does it to one of my siblings? Like, and he was a little more rough that day because I told him to stop, and I grabbed his hand, and he argued with me, and he told me, your parents wouldn't believe you anyway. Like, they know I'm their friend. I've been their friend for, I don't remember how many years, he said. And so I thought to myself, like, What if they don't believe me? Then what? Then I'm just going to be the problem child. And I already kind of got a lot of hell because my older sister was very immature. And so I was the one that always was doing stuff and always the one getting in trouble. Very tomboyish almost. And so finally one day I just was like, I'm going to tell my parents. And so I did. And they didn't believe me. He was right. They did not believe me, whether it be they were friends. I don't know if they were in denial. I have no idea. But they were like, stop causing problems. You need to just take a nap. And so when they talked to Danny, he just said, oh, well, you know how she is. She tries to buck the system and, she doesn't want to take a nap. And so they wrote it all off until about a month later, my dad came home. So when I say dad, it's my stepfather, not my biological. My dad came home and caught him in the act and chased him 2 blocks. And I thought, finally somebody was going to do something about it. And I was already in this place of like shame and guilt. And I started getting more tomboyish, bigger clothes, saggier pants, like trying to, I don't know, I guess not look appealing. And a couple of weeks went by. My parents talked to me and they apologized and they kind of went on with their lives. And honestly, I was grateful for that because I didn't want my whole life to be like this shameful place of just being in this place. And a couple of weeks went by and my parents were like having to miss work and they were fighting all the time because they were fighting over who was going to miss and my mom just getting her job. It was kind of a big deal. And then they sat me down one night and they said, we've talked to Danny and he's not going to touch you. He's not allowed to be in your room anymore. But we don't have a babysitter and we need somebody. And I thought, okay. They were like, so we have to bring him back until we can find somebody different. And I just remember like, what? I didn't understand. And so they brought him back and he didn't touch me after that. He did not. I come to find out years later, just a few years ago, that he had started on some of my other siblings I did not know about. They never spoke up. But it spiraled me into a deep depression, if that's even possible for a kid about to be 8. And I was just like so stinking lost. I didn't play. I didn't have friends. I didn't do anything other than help around the house. I just completely withdrew from the world. And I remember my parents thinking, oh, it will be better if we move. So we moved across the street from our elementary school. And my mom had started kind of disappearing, acting weird, acting different, acting funny. And I didn't know at the time she was using drugs. And she didn't come home one time for a couple of nights. And it got pretty ugly when she came back. My parents fought and it was just crazy. Mind you, at the same time, my mom is caring for my dad's mom who has, oh my gosh, I can't think of the disease, but she was completely unable to take care of anything. They were feeding her through a tube. And so I shared a room with my dad's mom. And I used to watch them come in there and give her medicine every night. And so I remember laying there watching her in the bed across from me thinking, she's got it made. She's like going to die. She doesn't have to be here anymore. And I started thinking like, what would that be like to not have to be here? And so one night I decided to go in there and drink an entire bottle. Back then they had the really big bottles of chlorocidin spray. And I drank an entire bottle in hopes that it was the only medication I had access to. And so I drank the whole bottle. And I remember going and laying in front of the TV and sitting there. And it was almost like an outer body experience because I remember like watching from across the room myself laying on the floor. And I remember my dad like kicking me several times, like, wake up, get up, dinner's here. They ordered pizza. And I remember him kicking me. And I didn't respond. And so he picked me up by the back of my shirt, like up off the floor, and then dropped me, and I still didn't respond. So finally they call an ambulance, and I died in the ambulance ride. They pumped my stomach twice, and I obviously came back. And I remember my dad and my mom being in the hospital room with me. And I was so sad to have woken up. And the first thing that comes out of my dad's mouth, and I love him dearly, and I know that he just didn't understand, but he says to me, "You're so stupid. How could you be so selfish and do something so stupid and reckless? You're grounded, and I don't want to hear another word about it. And as soon as you get out of here, you have dishes and chores, extra chores to pick up." And I just was like, I'm miserable. And so after that, my mom had just went down a really, really dark path. It took me years to figure out kind of what was going on, to see it. But at that time, it was just like she would be gone for days at a time. She wouldn't come home. She was pregnant with twins using. And her and my dad just started fighting more. And it just, from 7 on, it just spiraled.
Did your mom have a drug use history before you were born?
No.
So she just started at this point when the things that happened to you happened?
Yeah.
Do you think that was a trigger for her?
Most definitely. Now that I'm older and now that I have healed, I was able to have conversations with my mom. So my mom was molested by a church bus driver for several years. This is why my mom never taught me about God, never took us to church, never anything, because she was molested. And so I think now talking to my mom many years later, it triggered something inside of her, and there was nothing that she could do or she didn't know what to do with, something that she had hid from everybody her whole life. Again, her parents didn't believe her. And so I think when she realized that she didn't believe me, she had kind of fallen into the same place. Mind you, her mom was very racist. And as soon as her mom found out she was pregnant with my sister, who was half Black, my grandmother kicked her out into the park at 17, pregnant. And so I think it triggered something inside of her that was like angry with herself, and also brought up feelings and thoughts of the past that she didn't know what to do with.
Why do you think your mom allowed Danny back into the house if she had that happen to her?
I think that she didn't think she had a choice. I think that having 6 kids and being in a very toxic relationship with my dad, like I said, they fought all the time. I think that she may have felt like she didn't have any other options other than quitting her job. And she was, for the first time in her life, doing something for herself. Like, she finally had a job that meant something. She went to night school to be a nurse, and she had finally achieved something. And I think that maybe she just thought that she didn't have a choice. I mean, I've asked myself that. She really couldn't give me an answer when we talked about it later in life. It was actually a bad trigger for her that she wouldn't talk about. But I don't know. I just think maybe she just thought she didn't have a choice.
And what about your stepdad's way of handling it? Do you think he was just never exposed to that type of situation before, or the town being so small, those types of things don't happen? Or they happen and never came about?
I think for him, I think it was the same way. I think that my mom was a very in-your-face kind of person. And so I think with my dad, I think he was trying to make decisions to help both of them and didn't know how. I think he was just lack of experience. He was in the Air Force, so he was like tight ship, tight lip. I think that, I don't know, I think he wasn't just familiar, and he maybe too was doing the same thing and just thought that they had no other options. To be honest with you, I don't know.
When your mom falls into addiction, what happens to you?
So I spent the next 2 years as my mom's babysitter. My dad would make me go with my mom anywhere she went. She would say, "Hey, I'm going to go get pizza." And my dad would say, "Tamara, go with her." And for the longest time, we would just ride around and she would get high. And she would sell our food stamps and she would get high some more. And we would be gone sometimes for 2 days, sometimes 3, depending. And my dad, sometimes she would just drop me off on the front porch. Like after the second day, she would just drop me off and take off before anything could happen. And my dad would be at the house and he would like, we're going to go look for her. And we would get in the car and have to drive around just hour and hours just looking for her. And then I became like the referee for my parents. They had broken tables and porches and you name it. They fought like cats and dogs. And my dad would hand me his wallet and like, go hide it, go put it up, go do this. And so many nights I would have to stay awake with him until she showed up. Sometimes she wouldn't show up at all. And I would be the one getting the kids up for school, helping them get dressed, helping them with homework, cleaning, cooking, doing those things. My dad I had a bunk bed, and my dad watches this. I love you. It got so bad that my mom would accuse me of being his little wife. He would wake me up when he got up at 5 a.m. And sometimes I would roll to the back of my bunk bed so that he couldn't reach me, and I would act like I couldn't hear him. But my dad was very overweight, and so he would have me help him get up in the morning. I would help make his lunch. I would put on his socks and shoes for him, and he would leave for the day, and I would wake my siblings up and get them dressed. And so I just became like this, like my mom would call me, like the little wife in the house, cooking and cleaning and helping with the kids. And it got to the point where my mom... she would start running out of money. And I never forget this one time. I was probably 9, early 10, the first time it happened. We were driving around, and I guess she ran out or was fixing to run out, and we were in a minivan. She pulled up into this gas station, and she says, go in and get me something, get me a water. And I was like fighting with her. I'm like, no, I'm not getting out. It's like 3:00 in the morning. I'm not getting out, Mom. I'm not going in. You're being ridiculous. She had a mirror, obviously, with her drugs on the mirror, in the little, like the drink holder. And she's like screaming at me to get out of the van. And I'm like, fine, I'll just get out. And she's like, we'll get you something while you're in there. And I'm like, I don't want anything. I want to go home. And I was just screaming at her. I was so angry. I get out of the van and I go into the store. But when I come back out, there's this man in overalls that is standing by the sliding door on the passenger side. And he just looks me up and down and he was like, get in. And I was like, who the heck are you? And like, I'm being so sassy with this guy. I am angry. I am tired. I am ready to go home. And I don't know who this guy is. And my mom said, just get in, and just like screams at me. So I get in the van and the guy gets in the passenger seat. And we're driving around for like, I don't know how long it was, not very long. And we pull up to they're houses, but they're like 2 houses next to each other. I don't know what those are called. So it's like a group of houses, little tiny houses. And then there's like 2 doors. So that a house on this side and a house on the side. And we pull up to these houses, and my mom tells me, the guy gets out, and my mom tells me to get out. And I'm like, I'm thinking she's getting out. So I'm like, oh my gosh, here we are again. Because this wasn't abnormal to like stop at somebody's house and then she'd stick me in a room while she was out, getting high. And so I'm like, oh, here we go again. So I get out thinking she's about to get out. She does not. That day was the first time my mom told me. And the sad thing is when she finally came back to pick me up, I had fallen asleep on this guy's couch crying. I had been bleeding. And when my mom shows back up, it's like 5 or 6 in the morning. She picks me back up and she goes to this payphone. And at the time, my 3rd grade teacher was her sponsor because she had already been to rehab like 3 times. And She called my third grade teacher from a payphone and told my third grade teacher what was going on. Not to the extent of what happened to me, but that she had relapsed and that all this stuff was going on. My mom dropped me back off at school that morning in the same clothes that I had been in for 3 days, only for my teacher to embarrass me further because obviously I had blood on the outside of my clothes. And she calls me out into the hallway of, the buildings when they have too many kids. And so they get those little trailer house buildings on the outside. So the walls weren't big. The walls were not, you could hear everything going on. And she pulls me out into this little hallway and she starts asking me about my mom. And like, are you okay? Everybody in the classroom can hear her. And so it just went from there and got worse. It started happening more often. And so over a period of time, it started getting like, she would drop me off for days and it wouldn't be just one person. It would be 3 or 4. And then I'd be stuck in a hotel for like days at a time. Sorry if I cry. Until one time, I had started working out I was big in sports. I was very competitive. I used my anger in sports. I did wrestling, basketball, volleyball, track, you name it. I was in it. Trying to stay busy from not having to want to be at home. My dad was very strict. So I only got to play like certain things, or I couldn't practice after hours, or it had to be during school hours because he needed me home. And I guess I was probably 12. This one particular instance, my dad was driving a bus, and so he was gone. And it was the summertime. And so my siblings, let me back up. When my brother and sister, the twins, were born, my mom was still using. And I remember her getting released from the hospital. They were preemies, obviously. And so they had to stay in the hospital for a while. And she had already started using before they got sent home. And so my dad made me go with her to pick the babies up from the hospital that day. And when we pulled up to the house, she didn't pull into the driveway. I already knew something was up. So I couldn't carry the car seats. So I take the babies out and I have the babies in my hands. And I reach to close the door and I start walking and my mom takes off. Like, boom, almost hits me, runs me over. So she had already started using again. And then she went to rehab in between these 2 instances. And when she got out of rehab, my dad was very much so not understanding of the way the addiction works. So my dad had a brother who liked to party. And so he would come down and then they would go to my mom and be like, hey, can you go get us some dope? And so he can party all night. And my dad, not clicking to him because he used to get high every once in a while and then he would be fine. He could quit and then go to work the next day and not have a problem. Not my mom. So we went through this for several months, and when the summer came, I got my brothers and sisters enrolled in like this little park. Like you could go park recreations. They have this thing where you can sign the kids up and they'll go swimming. They'll feed them lunch. They get to play games, stay at the park, play with their friends all day. And so I signed my parents' signature and got them signed up. And so while my dad was at work, I would take them to play sometimes to get them out of the house. And it was like 6 city blocks away from our house. So there was like a big field you could walk through. And I remember waking everybody up, like, hey, let's go to the park, started getting them dressed. And I remember them telling us the day before that the pool would be closed for maintenance. So I told them, don't put your swimsuits on. We're not swimming today. So we go to the park and they say, hey, the pool's going to be open. So I walk all the kids back to the house and let them get changed. And I always let them go first, help them get changed, and I would go last. So I went into the bathroom to get changed, and when I came out, all my siblings were gone. And there was some man standing in my house. I had recognized the man. So I already knew what he was there for. And so I got really mad at my mom, and I was like, screaming at her. That summer, I had started working out with the high school football team on 2-a-days. I was just looking for a place to burn off my anger. At this point, I was very angry. I fought with everybody all the time. I would fight bullies. I was the bully of the bullies. I was vicious. And so I'm sitting here screaming at my mom. I'm like, why would you send them by themselves to the park? Like, do you realize that none of them are over the age of 10? Like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I think she was sober in that moment. I don't even think she had gotten any drugs yet. So I can't even find a reason for the excuse, but she kept telling me, just go with him. His nickname was G. Just go with G and go get me a soda and he's going to bring you right back. Because she always had some excuse. And I think it was a way to lie to herself, to be honest with you. So after fighting with her for like 10 minutes, she was like, you're wasting time. You could already be there at the park with them. So I was like, fine, I'll go with him. But when I get back, those kids better be safe. And if anything happens to them, I swear to God. So I get in the car and we drive. So where the park is, we drive past the park. And so I get to see like my sisters and brothers are like walking up to the park. So I'm like, okay, great. They made it. So I took a little bit of a breath and we pulled into these apartments off of Amarillo Boulevard. If anybody watching this knows, there's a United and there's like a little an apartment complex. So the guy pulls around to the side on the outside of the apartment complex. Mind you, it's the middle of summer. There's like hundreds of people that live in these apartments. And so he gets out of the car, he parks and gets out of the car. And I lock the doors and I'm holding onto the door. He's beating on the window, screaming at me to unlock the door. And I'm like, I'm not. So he's like trying to put the key in there to unlock the door. And I am like pulling with everything I have. I have my feet up on the side of the panel so that he can't open the door. And obviously this guy is like 6'2", big guy. And I am like screaming. Finally, he gets the door open and like pulls me out while I'm holding on to the door, like just pulls me completely out of the car. And he picks me up and he throws me over his shoulder. This is why I do what I do. 30, 40 people outside barbecuing. And I'm screaming for dear life. Not one person looked up. Not one person said a word. This man carried me through this courtyard, up a flight of stairs. And nobody said anything. I was white. He was black. There was obviously wasn't my dad. That time was very different than most of the other times. He was very violent. And I think maybe because I had been doing the strength and conditioning with the football team, I was a little bit stouter than at least I thought I was stouter. So I fought back. He continued to just well on me and he bit me. I had a huge bite mark that was bleeding. He busted my nose, my lip, pulled some of my hair out like it was real messed up. And this was before I found God, so I didn't know who I was talking to, but I remember as he kept trying to beat on me, trying to force my clothes off of me, just thinking to myself, like, please, somebody knock on the door. Please, Mom, knock on the door. Somebody come and save me, because I thought this man was about to kill me. Maybe if I wouldn't have fought back, I used to ask myself that all the time, like if I didn't fight back, what would have happened? And so here I am thinking I'm about to die, and somebody knocks on the door. It's my mom. Face pale white. Lips were almost like blue. So he stood up to open the door, and so I jumped up, and there was this chair by the door, so I jumped up to that chair and stood next to the chair, leaned up against it, and I was like fixing to bolt out, and he grabbed a hold of my hair. Sorry. And my mom walked right past me. She didn't speak a word to me. She just looked at him and said, "You're late. I need another 20. So the guy with my hair in his hand dragged me to the kitchen, opened up a freezer, and grabbed some crack and put it on a plate. And my mom grabbed the plate and went to the bathroom. He then took me to his room. The whole time we were in the living room. Then he took me to his room, and he had a ring on. And he kept trying to get my pants off, and he shoved his hands down my pants, and it cut me pretty bad. Still have a scar. And I am screaming, and my mom never comes out of the bathroom. He gets a phone call, and he says, I have to go, but when I get back, you better be acting right. And so I thought, okay, here's my chance. I'm going to run. I don't know why. Stupidly, I ran to the bathroom to my mom, and I beat on the door. And she wouldn't open it at first. She just kept screaming at me to shut up and leave her alone. When she opens the door, I call it the bullfrog effect. She had this thing every time she got high that she her neck would be like a bullfrog. And she opened the door, and it was like there was no mom there staring back at me. And I said, Mom, I have to leave. He's going to kill me. And she said, if you leave, he's going to hurt me. And do you want him to hurt me? You need to grow up. Everybody has to grow up at some point. And I was just like, okay. I didn't know what to do. And she said, she went into the bedroom. She walked past me. And she noticed that this guy had a dresser full of quarters. And so she counted $20 in quarters. And she said, if you take this to the store and you cash it in for $20 bill so he doesn't know that I took it from him, then you can go. So I'm like, okay, why I didn't just run, I don't know. I took that money, them quarters, and I walked down this flight of stairs, through this whole apartment complex. Mind you, again, all these people are here barbecuing and playing dominoes. They were just out there. I have baby blue shorts on with flip-flops. And I have blood falling down my leg. Busted lip, busted nose. I didn't clean myself up. Not one person said a word. I walk into this store. 6, 7 people in the store. Not one person said anything to me. I changed in the money, took it back to her, and I took off running home. I wish I could tell you that I ran home to go tell. Didn't. I ran home to get changed and cleaned up before anybody could notice. I was so ashamed and I didn't know what to do. And I just thought, I got to get there before my dad gets there because then they're going to fight. And then who knows what's going to happen, right? My mom's already tried to commit suicide so many times. And when I got there, my dad was standing on the front porch. I wish I could say that he was concerned for me. And I love my dad. But I think rage maybe took over. And he said, where is she? Take me to her right now. And so I took him over there, and he got her out of the house, out of the apartment. And they fought, and they fought. And he sent me to go get cleaned up and to go get my siblings. And so I did. I got cleaned up, and I went to the park and got my siblings. And when I came back, my mom had left again. My dad had made me ride around with him for hours that night looking for her, only to find out she was inside this pond that they had at this park. And they had to call the fire department to get her out because she had walked in it and was sinking and couldn't get out. And I'll never forget that night. She came and she sat on the front porch, muddy and gross, crying. And he just kept saying, you're such a horrible person. Look at you, and just make all these horrible derogatory marks. She came in and she got changed and she sat on the arm of the couch. She just sat there with her head down, didn't say anything. And he just kept spewing. She went into the kitchen and it got really quiet. And when I walked, I said, something's not right. And I walked into the kitchen. And the way the kitchen was is the sink was all the way at the end, facing outside. So when I walked into the kitchen, all I could see was her back. And I knew something in my gut, I knew. And I walked up behind her and I said, "Mom." And when I did, she turned. Her left hand was barely hanging to where she could barely grip this huge knife that she had in her hand. And she was cutting the other one. My dad seemed unshocked. And I remember, back then we didn't have cell phones and all that. So I remember getting 2 wet towels and wrapping them around her wrist and taking her to sit on the front porch. And my dad is just screaming at her. So I ran up and down the street, banging on doors. "Please call 911. Finally, somebody answered the door in the middle of the night and called 911. And I stayed home while she went to the hospital. And I scrubbed the kitchen down. And I scrubbed the floors down. And I scrubbed the living room down. And I scrubbed the front porch down from all of the blood so that my siblings wouldn't see what happened. And all I kept doing was blaming myself. Like, if I wouldn't have come home like that, if he wouldn't have found me like that. A couple of days passed and my dad had decided to pack up his kids. There was 8 of us and only 4 were his. My mom, he was going to take me with him. He did love us. I think my mom had really just worn him really thin, and he had a lot of hate in his heart. And he packed up his 4 kids. And he left. It got so much worse after that.
Do you think your stepdad was enabling your mother throughout this?
I think that he was so exhausted. At first, I know that he didn't see addiction like my mom seen addiction, right? Like my mom was full-blown addict. My dad was a casual. He could drink and, party with the guys and then be done with it. So I think at first it was like blindness to addiction, like he didn't understand it. But then I think he got so wore down and so fed up and didn't know what to do that he didn't want to leave her. He loved us. I know he didn't want to leave us. And I think he stuck it out for so long with the hopes that she would change, with the hopes that she would get sober. But then somewhere along the lines, I think that, to be honest with you, it was almost like a game, a control. I love my dad. If my dad sees this, I hope he knows that I love him. But I honestly think that there was power and control because I would watch him give her a little bit and then cut her off. And her addiction didn't work like that. And so, like I said, I think it was a lot of being wore down, not knowing what to do, being exhausted, and then some of it was control.
Now, why do you think you still had love for your mom throughout that period of time, even though she was the cause of this?
So for my mom, I don't know. I don't know. Hope. Delusion, really, probably. I think I seen something in my mom that a lot of people didn't see. I spent a lot of time with her while she was high and while she was sober. I think that I realized at a very young age that she was a complete different person. That when my mom was sober, she was good. There wasn't very many days like that after 7. But when she was sober, she was very loving and compassionate, very smart. And I seen the difference between her sober and her on drugs. And I think that I just seen the pain. I think I seen a different person. And I wanted to believe that When she took a hit, she became a monster. You know, like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And I just kept telling that to myself all my life. Did I have anger towards her? Yes. I was very, very angry. They used to make fun of me because I would cry. I would get so mad that I would begin to cry. And my cousin, Michael, who's a couple months younger than I am, I would fight with him. Like I would tear him up. And he always knew when to stop because when I started crying, it was a done deal. And so I think that although I had anger, I'm thinking about it now. I don't think I ever pointed it at her. I think it was just, I was angry for the drugs. I was angry for the situation. I was angry at everybody else. But because I seen her compassionate side, I think I had just told myself for so long it was two different people.
What about your stepfather? You speak semi highly of him now that you have love for him. You don't put blame on him at all or have any hate towards not, I guess, protecting you in a way?
Again, I think it's crazy because it's like I think of it now and I think, how on earth did an 8, 9, 10-year-old have this thought process? But I think that I looked at him in pity because he was dealing with a lot, like taking care of 8 kids and dealing with my mom disappearing all the time and stealing money. And man, we would get food stamps. And my mom was so smart. She would take an old food stamp card and memorize the new food stamp card number. And back then, the scan thing didn't work all the time. So it was not uncommon that you would have to manually enter in the numbers. So I remember specifically my dad telling me, hide the wallet, blah, blah, blah. Same song, same dance, different time. So we get food stamps that next morning. He's like, take this, hide it so she can't get to it before we can buy food for the house. And I remember this one specific day that he told me to do this. And I remember my mom going to the store the next day with this lady from across the street. And this lady gave my mom a couple $100. And I'm looking like, Mom, you can't even sell food stamps because you don't have the card. Like, I'm thinking to myself, like, you don't even have the card. Dad's at work. I'm the only one that knows where it's at. And I know she hasn't found it. And I watch my mom scan this old card and enter in the numbers. And this lady walk out with groceries. And so I think in that moment, I like realized my mom's brilliant. Like, she is a dang good scam artist. And I think at that moment I realized that my dad didn't stand a chance. That like my dad was beat down like a beat dog. And there was no way that he had a chance of outsmarting her. And I think I just felt sad for my dad. And I don't think I ever thought of him not protecting me. I think back and I think he was trying to protect all of us and he had to choose. Did he protect just me or did he protect everyone? And I think that sometimes he had to make those hard choices. And I think if I would have told him sooner about my mom selling me and doing the things that she was doing, I think that he would have stopped sending me. But because of what happened with Danny, I didn't know. So I didn't want him to have to be put in that spot. And so I just kept it quiet.
Where's the rest of your family? You know, cousins, aunts, uncles, any grandparents on either side? I know your mom's side of the family abandoned her, but there's no one else, you know, to kind of help.
So my mom was already the black sheep. So when she started using, everybody started distancing themselves from her. She has 2 sisters who got sober. Mind you, they partied young. And so once they had kids, they kind of had their own lives. And once my mom, young, was the opposite. She was very responsible, even though she had, she started having kids young. She was always the responsible one. And my aunts just kind of like slowly moved away from us and didn't have anything to do with my mom. They lived with us multiple times on and off. Like one of my aunts would move in with her two daughters. And in that time, still my mom was using and they kind of were oblivious to everything. Um, but they just they didn't get involved. And that sounds weird. And my stepfather's side of the family, they lived hours and hours away and they hated my mom. So my aunt lived in the same town on my dad's side, and she would stop by and check on us, and she would check on my dad, and she would try to convince my dad to leave my mom. I know one time while my mom was in rehab, she stayed and come by the house and helped us like clean and do things. CPS showed up a couple of times, but we were taught how to lie to them very well. My parents would sit us down and like go over, rehearse, like if somebody came by, what would happen, what would be said. And they were very like on point with that, coaching us on what to say. And so they all just kind of, I say this now, I never witnessed family, what family's supposed to look like. I just thought that as you got older, everybody just kind of moved off and had nothing to do with each other. My cousins at the time that when they did live there, before they moved, so it kind of got messed up. So like at 13, when my dad packed up and left, I was about 12 and a half. Right before that happened, my only aunt that was close that kind of would try to every once in a while step in, my dad never let us go stay the night over there. Like he was very strict. No staying the night at people's houses. Nobody really stayed the night at our house very often. And so at the same time, a friend of the family who was really high up in the church, who had been molesting me, and several of our other family members. They had found out, my aunt and my uncle found out about their Down syndrome daughter being molested by this man. So my uncle, I was just telling my husband this earlier, my uncle threatened this guy, shot up his house, and then they packed up and they left. And the only person that I had was my 13-year-old cousin. That was the only person I could talk to. And the only person, like, we went to school, we were very close. I fought a lot of his fights for him because I was always the fighter. They packed up and they moved away to Oklahoma. And so when that happened, things just got really bad, even worse than they were before. And so I just never was connected. Like I would go to by my grandmother's house. I'm away from school, but she had so much anger towards my mom and resentment and basically just cast her out and didn't have anything to do with her. So the only time we ever seen my grandparents even a lot of my aunts and uncles would be like Christmas or Thanksgiving at my grandma's house. That was it. Like that was the extent of a relationship really. I kind of on and off was close with my cousin, my older cousin. But again, she was not really somebody I could talk to. She was just somebody that was older, so I could go riding around with her and do stupid stuff and not really think about what was going on. So I'd never even talked to her about a lot of it.
So now what happens after your stepfather leaves?
So after my stepdad packed up and left, my oldest sister ran away and went to go live with her boyfriend. And I had the two younger sisters with me. And it started getting way worse. Mom at first would stay gone. She stayed gone for like a week one time. And when my dad left, the bills were already stacked high. So within a week of him being gone, all the electricity was cut off. So we had water and we had gas at first, but the water was cut off. And my mom had been gone already for a couple of days when this got turned off, so she didn't even know that it was off. So I went to the dollar store and I stole for the first time. Well, not the first time, because I stole some bubble gum when I was little bitty. But I stole. I stole a bunch of candles and batteries and flashlights. And we sat like that. And we started running out of food. And so when my mom came back, she came home and slept for 2 days. So I went to the store, this gas station, Toot and Totem, and I stole some snack foods to feed my siblings. And when my mom woke up, she was sick. She was having really bad asthma and COPD. And so she was really sick. And so I spent maybe 2 days taking care of her and my siblings. She said that it was because she was dope sick. And so she sent me down the street to go get one of her friends. It was at this dope house. And her friend came. And invited a guy over. And their means to get dope was me. So now my mom let this man move into our house. So we had, when you walk in, it was a 4-bedroom house, and there was 3 bedrooms on this side, and then off the living room was a couple of stairs down. It was a garage converted. And so my mom would let him and her and this other lady stay down there. They lived down there. So it was a prostitute, my mom, and her pimp. And it got to where he started selling me more. So they had turned the back bedroom of the house into a hotel room. And that went on for quite some time. In the process, our water got shut off already. And the neighbors didn't like dealing with us because they knew my mom. So I would have to go and steal their water hose and try to flush our toilet and get drinking water. So I would get gallons, milk gallons, and empty them out and fill them up with water so we'd have water. Mind you, people are in and out of our house all day long. And then the neighbors found out that I was stealing water. So they removed the water hose. And so I would put dog bowls outside to catch rainwater. We used that. I broke into the neighbor's house one time to steal food. And it just got worse. And my mom had met this guy, and he was only 20, I think. I don't know how old he was. His name was Jason. They called him Dirty South. And he had a car. He had a really nice car and 20-inch rims and a really nice system in his car. And my mom kept pushing me on him, trying to get me to date this guy, trying to get me. And it was so weird because now all of a sudden our lights get turned back on and I'm confused. I don't know what's going on. And my mom says, "Don't worry, you don't have to stay back there in that back room anymore. I'm going to fix up the downstairs so you can stay down there, you and Jason." And I was like, "What do you mean? What are you saying?" She was like, "Oh, well, Jason's going to move in and he's the one that turned the lights back on." And so I'm just confused. I'm like, "I'm not sleeping down there with that weirdo. What the heck's wrong with you?" So she stole his car. Second day he lived there. And I was asleep on the couch, and I don't know when she left, My sisters, I always locked them in the front room, always. They, nobody was allowed in that room. And so I started sleeping with a knife. And I remember this guy waking me up. Like, your mom took my car. And I'm like, so what do you want me to do about it, you know? And I remember laughing because I was like, you're stupid if you really thought you were going to get something. Like, I don't know what you thought she was going to do. She stole your car and you deserved it. You're an idiot. And this guy's like screaming and yelling at me, and he's like, I paid for more than this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at him like, you paid for what? And he was meaning me. And so I am laughing at him. I was like, you're stupid for trusting her. Mind you, you're a 20-year-old guy. Like, you could have went and got anybody you wanted, but instead you wanted a 13-year-old little girl, and you made a dope deal with a drug addict, and you really thought she was going to like see to it, or what did you think was going to happen? So my mom rolls back up. This guy, he leaves. He's just furious. When he comes back, he's sitting there for a couple hours. My mom shows back up. My mom pulls up with this car, dude. I swear to you, like, I laughed so hard whenever I see my mom pull up because this car was on donuts. Like 4 donuts. I am not, like, the rims are gone. The tires are gone. The stereo system that he had just put in is gone. All the 212s and the 10 and the amp, all of it is gone. His car is stripped. And he is livid, arguing and screaming. He leaves, he comes back with a pistol, is like threatening to shoot the place up. And I'm just like, that's what you get. That's what you get for trying to buy a 13-year-old. Okay. And so times start going on. Our lights go back off again. And I laugh about it now because I'm like, how stupid were these people to like, my mom hustled so many people. I'm telling you, she was a genius. I ain't never seen no drug addict this smart before in my life. My mom was hilarious and so intelligent. And so there was this guy that used to come serve her all the time. And I guess after that, I kind of was like thinking to myself, watching this dude, I was thinking to myself, I'm smarter than most of these people. And I'm done being a victim. Like, I'm done being a victim. And so this guy shows up and he says to me, your mom stole this off of your finger last night. It was a ring that a friend of mine gave to me. And it was real gold. And my mom apparently stole it off my finger while I was asleep and gave it to him. And he said, his name was Antoine. And he had a twin, it wasn't his twin brother, but they called each other twin. And so they came back and he gave me the ring. And he said, you know, what would you think if I said I could help you? And I was like, help me with what? I don't need your help. He was like, no, man, for real. Like, what if I could help you? And I was like, help me do what? What do you think I need help with? And he was like, obviously paying these bills because like there ain't no lights on in here. I mean, you got food? And I was like, well, no. And so he said, what if I told you? And I thought he was going to offer to be my pimp. Mind you, at this point, I have already been tied up, drugged, left, beat. And I just was over it. Like, I don't know what got into me. Something shifted in my whole mind. And I was like, I'm done. And so he was like, no, ain't nothing like that. Nothing like that. Like, what if I could give you a rock? You think you could sell it? And I was like, yeah. Like, you see how many dope heads are coming in and out of my house? Like, yeah, I think I could sell it. He was like, how about I give you a rock and you see what you can make with it? I was like, okay, bet. So he gave me the ring back and he gave me a crack rock. And he said, I'll come back to collect. You owe me $20. He didn't tell me how much crack he'd given me. I just knew that he wanted $20 in return. I don't know how much crack goes for. So I chopped it into 4 pieces and I sold it. So I made $80. And so when he came back, he was like, all right, so what's up? Did you get some money? And I was like, yeah, here's your $20. He's like, well, how much did you make? And I said, I made 80, but I owed you 20. And he was like, you made $80 off of that $20 rock? And I was like, that was a $20 rock? He's like, yes, you should have only made 20. See, because he tried to trap me. He was going to only give me what it was worth. He was not going to help me do anything. I didn't know. So I had started then. Mind you, I had already been selling. I left this part out, weed. I'd been stealing my mom's stash and selling it at school. Like one time the principal caught me. I used to bury it in a coffee can out on the football field under the bleachers. So when people would want it, I would have pre-rolled joints to give out. And so one time I ran out of papers and somebody wanted a joint. So I put it in a cigarette cellophane. I was already smoking cigarettes. I put it in a cigarette cellophane and I had it in my hand. I was going to go and the principal came out. And so I remember the principal like scolding me, like, you should be in class, blah, 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 blah. And I had been in the principal's office so much, like me and the principal, Mr. Self, were like this. And he was just like scolding me about being in class. And I'm like walking, dumping the pot out of the cellophane, like next to me as we're walking. So when I got there, all I had was a cellophane. And so I remember like I was already selling in the 6th grade. I had been jumped into a gang in my 8th grade summer year. I'm not going to say which one, but I was jumped in. So I was part of this gang. Like I thought I was doing something with my life because for the first time ever, I could call on somebody and they would have my back. Like I knew that they would be there. So when I started selling this crack, I was selling it to like all my mom's friends. I started selling it to my mom. I was like, she would tell me, hey, can you go get me some from this person? And I'd be like, oh yeah. So I would walk around the block and then come back and act like I got it from somebody else. But honestly, it came out of my pocket. And so I started serving my mom. I started serving all the people that came into the house. And the whole time I'm like a part of this gang. So I am like fighting all the time, getting in fights. I am just going through all this stuff. So then I started carrying a pistol. So I'm missing a bunch of school, skipping all the time. At this point, I'm already grown up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm grown. I'm taking care of a whole household. I'm feeding my siblings. I finally am able, and we lived in HUD housing, so rent was $17. I'll never forget this, $17. And the guy that owned the place was a really sweet guy. Like the year before my dad left, he worked at Pantex. I don't know if you know what that is.
Mm-mm.
I don't think I'm supposed to give away all that information, but it's a classified location for the military. They work on all of our military stuff. Anyways, and because he worked for Pantex, they had a whole fire truck and some police cars, an ambulance, show up with Christmas presents for all of us, right? And so in that period of time, every time he'd come by, he would come and talk to me. And I don't know if he just thought I was a little more mature or what, but he would come and talk to me. And so we kind of became little buddies, like, hey, he was a good guy. And so when my dad left, I had told him that my dad was away on work, and that lie ended up, he figured it out. And so what I was doing is we were behind because it had been months since my dad had been gone before I started selling the drugs. And so I started being able to come up with the money for the rent. And so like I'm giving him $17 and he's stopping by and I'm like, my mom's not here right now. She's at work. He wasn't stupid. He knew. He just didn't want to kick us out because we had nowhere else to go. Well, one day I wasn't there and my friend had come by and he had fell asleep on the couch, huffing spray paint. And my mom robbed him. He wasn't a dealer. He was just a friend of mine, come by to get some weed from me. And that's the day my mom realized I was selling. And so my mom robbed him while he was asleep. And apparently the money he had on him wasn't his money. It was his brother's money, who was a dealer. And he was in a rivalry gang that was not connected to me, but connected to my mom. So my mom ran with, I think the gorillas, or I don't know, silverback, whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called, which is predominantly Black people. And my mom was white, but she hung out mostly with other people. And so he was part of Aryan Brotherhood. This guy was. And his name was Jordan, was my friend. And Jordan's brother found out that my mom had robbed his little brother. And Luckily, nothing came of this, but we were in the house asleep. Me and my sisters all slept. Remember, I told you that they had put the other rooms in like for prostitutes and for tricks to turn tricks out of. And me and my siblings, me and my two sisters slept in the front bedroom. They came and they shot our house up. Like bullet holes all over the front of the house. The cops never got called. Nobody ever came out. Nothing ever happened. Thank God. None of us were hit. So then I pay our neighbor, like, hey, can I come stay with you for a little while, me and my sisters, until we figure this out? In the meantime, the landlord had come by. I wasn't there. He seen the house shot up. He was like, I can't let this go on anymore. So I had to start paying the neighbors to let us stay there until they caught on that I was dealing. When I started dealing pretty big, I wasn't even 14 yet. Like I had started like moving weight. I figured out how to cook crack, like how to make it. And I've always been really smart. Like I'm not fixing to get crumbs. Like if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it full force. Like I'm not going to be getting crumbs. I don't know where this came from. Like over a summer, I just changed. Everything about me changed. Like my mindset, being the victim, like all this, it changed. And so I met this old man. I called him old school. And he took me to Alexander's Barbecue on Amarillo Boulevard. And we went to the back. And in the back was two rooms. One was turned into an office and the other one had a bed in it. So they took me to the back and this man taught me how to make cookies on my own. So how it started was he was only going to teach me if he was going to get something out of it. And so what he started doing is make me cut the cookies. So what would happen is like, say you had ordered a cookie. He would make it and then he would give it to me to cut. So a lot of people would want to buy pre-cut 20s so they didn't have to cut it. They didn't have to deal with it. And so he would have me chopping this stuff up in the back of this barbecue place. The whole time there are like tricks coming in and out, prostitutes coming in and out with their tricks in this other room across the hall from me. So of course, sometimes I would get to talking to the ladies and I would be like, so, who's your pimp? How much you making? And I started getting to know some of the girls. And so didn't think nothing about it. My aunt shows up. And my aunt's like, enough is enough. I'm taking your sisters with me. But I'm not taking you. You've already been doing too much. You're not going to want to live under my household. You're not going to want to follow rules. You've already grown up too much. She's like, seems like you're doing okay for yourself. Maybe you can just stay here. So she didn't take me with her. So my aunt took my two younger sisters. So now I don't even have to be tied down to like trying to figure out how they're going to eat, where they're going to sleep, how they're going to do things, taking them to school. I just altogether pretty much quit going to school. So my aunt takes my sisters and now I'm like, now I can rent a hotel. So I had to find some crackhead to go rent me a hotel for a week at a time. So I started staying at the Wagon Wheel, if you ever look this stuff up. So like we lived a block off of the boulevard. So the HUD house was every night you could hear like the Hispanic music, doom, 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 every night. So we lived a block off of the boulevard. Well, right at the end of that block, I can't remember what that place is called. So there was a hotel on the corner, a hotel across the street, and then there was the Wagon Wheel down the street. And they were known for the prostitutes, for the drugs, like, again, nothing town. Nobody knew nothing there. There was nothing to do. So I started renting hotel rooms. Well, then I realized I can't be doing all this by myself. I need somebody that I can trust. So I hired my mom to be my runner. If anybody's not familiar with the way the drug game works, is you don't ever want to be running your own dope because then that means you have to deal with other people. You have the drugs on you. You're traveling. So you find you a couple of good people that you can trust and trust-ish. Can you really trust any of us? No. So I started having my mom run. So now I'm renting 2 hotel rooms. My mom would stay in one and I would stay in the other. I would have all the dope and I'd give her what she needed to go do and then give her some to smoke. And so that way, both rooms were in 2 different names. And people think that's crazy, but when you learn, it's so if they get a warrant for my room, I can throw the dope in the other room and close the door, and they would have to get a search warrant for the other room, which gives us time to get rid of the dope. So, my mom was my runner for a long time.
And she's still hooked on drugs at this point too.
My mom has passed.
No, at this point in the story.
Oh yeah, she was bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
real bad.
So
there,
she could function as a runner?
yeah. She knew what was coming. She knew that she had a payday coming at the end of that. You best believe she was going to get. Now, here's the thing. The amount that I sent, is that amount that got there? Probably not. But it was worth it because then I would just put a little more in there because I knew she was skimming off of it. And so she would go and take it, knowing that when she came back, she would get twice as much as she just stole. So she always had an ample amount. Plus, I took care of her alcohol because she drank 40s like they were going out of business. 40, I don't know if you know.
Yeah, I know what a 40 is.
A 40.
Yeah.
So she would be drinking 40s all day long because she was all hyped up on crack. I didn't know what crack did until the first time I tried it. And I was like, oh, no, thank you. That was crazy. So she was really smart because I took care of her cigarettes, her room, her 40s, whatever she needed. I made sure she had what she needed. And so it worked until it didn't. I don't know if I can say this on here. Statute of limitations are a funny business. This I can say. There's going to be some things that I can't because of statute of limitations. It worked for a long time. And then I got kicked out of the hotel room because my mom was causing a lot of ruckus. And so at the end of Nelson Street and the Amarillo Boulevard, I can't remember the name of the hotel, we had to move from there to across the street. Across the street was a lot more rooms, so it was a lot busier. It was not abnormal for me to not let people come into my room. Like I don't know how I became this smart. You're like, how at 14, 13, 14 years old, you're a full-time dope dealer, like run and wait. I was. And the crazy thing is one night I ran out of crack, and my mom was getting really frustrated with me. And I did something that I don't think I've ever even told anybody else that I did. I met this guy that was fresh out of prison that learned how to make ice in prison. And he was looking for somebody to push his weight because he didn't know anything about it. He wasn't a dealer. He was just a cook. He knew how to cook. And I didn't know anything about ice. I had been pushing crack for like a year now. So I didn't know. And he gave me some to try to sell in the meantime while I was waiting for more crack. And I made the biggest mistake. I gave my mom some of the ice. And I told her, I was like, I don't know how you smoke it, Mom. Like, just try this for now until he gets back with this. And I didn't know how bad it was. Like, I didn't know the grip that it would have on her. She'd been smoking crack for so long. I didn't think, at this point, she's 5-6 years into her crack addiction. Okay. I don't know what I was thinking. And so I told her, I said, the guy showed me how to do it. She didn't have an ice pipe. So I take it and one of the weed pipes and I cleaned it really well. And it was one of the ones that it was a full bulb and then it dipped down in the middle. And so I loaded it in there for her. And I was like, you might have to get a little hotter. Don't roll it on the side because there's a hole on the top and here, but it should work. And she did. And I remember sitting across the room from me on a chair in the hotel room. And she was like, I feel my hair growing. What is this you gave me? And she was so freaked out. And I was freaked out because I don't know what it's supposed to do. And so I'm looking at her and she's looking at me and I'm like, I'm so sorry. And so she was like, I need to come down. I'm so high right now. I can feel everything on my body. All my hair's tingling. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I don't know. We get kicked out that night because she's out there causing a ruckus, like freaking out, fighting with people in the parking lot. So they kick us out and we have to go across the way. We go over there and they didn't have 2 rooms. They only had 1 room. They would only let me get 1 room. They weren't stupid. They knew I'd been across the street for a while. And so some time went on and my mom started getting to where she wasn't eating. She wasn't drinking. She wasn't doing things. And I would find her in the back of alleys with no clothes on, beat up. I don't know if she tried to rob someone or if they robbed her. Maybe they caught on that she was my runner and they just thought she had stuff on her. I don't know. But it got really bad. And I would have to write my room number and stuff in the back of her coat jacket. And so that when people found her, that they would call me. Kind of like a return lost and found kind of situation. It was pretty awful. And so I started forcing her to sober up for a couple of days. Like I wouldn't serve her any more crack. I wouldn't give her anything. And she started getting mad at me. And so one night, she had brought a man to the hotel room. He was outside. I never seen him. And was telling me that he needed this and this and that. And so I gave it to her. I told her, look, it's almost midnight. I have strict rules, like after midnight, no more running. I don't sell nothing after midnight. Don't knock on my door. Don't have nobody come over here. And she was like, well, I need a 40 before they close down and stop selling alcohol. And I need cigarettes. So I gave her some money for cigarettes and for a 40. And I said, well, I'm going to go to bed. And so at that time, I slept with a knife under my pillow and I put all my money and my dope under my pillow. I was a pretty light sleeper. And so I put everything under my pillow and we had 2 beds. And I told her, just make sure you close the door, whatever, you have a room key. She said, yeah, I got a room key. I'm good. Okay. Sometimes she was functionable and then sometimes she would get really far out. At this moment, she was functionable. And it seemed like more when she had her mind set on doing something specific, she was more logical, like made more sense, moved more strategically, like planned out her steps more. So I didn't think anything about it. I laid down and I went to sleep. I was exhausted. I had probably been up for 2 days, not getting high. I didn't get high. I wasn't smoking any dope. I just, I had been up selling. And I was woke up by a man. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know if he was trying to rape me or rob me or what. All I know is this guy was on top of me and I was woken up startled. And so I started wrestling with this guy, trying to get him off of me. And he keeps trying to like pin me down, but I've been fighting my whole life. I'm not even 90 pounds. Not even barely 5 foot tall. Like I'm tiny. And this guy is like fighting with me. And in the middle of the wrestle, I had managed to get my hand free and under my pillow. And I grabbed the knife. And I stabbed the man multiple times. And I just remember freaking out. And the guy ran out of the room. It's the first time I was arrested. I took off running and seen on the news that they had found a man dead by Fritch Highway. It was the man. Come to find out, he had a family, a wife, kids. And so I ended up having to turn myself in. And obviously I got let off. It was self-defense, obviously. Um, the drugs had already been gone by the time the cops showed up. I found out a while later that my mom had intentionally made a deal with this man to split whatever they got, half and half. His intentions were to rob me. If I would have known that, I would have just let him rob me. But I didn't know what exactly was going on, and I think I was just kind of scared. And my mom left that night and didn't close the door all the way, purposely. I was angry with her for a while. And in that anger, I kind of distanced myself. Then I moved to the wagon wheel. And she was no longer my runner. And so then I started selling ice and crack and pot. And I ended up keeping a pistol on me because I was like, I'm never going to let that happen again. And so then I started finding guys that would be like bodyguards that now I've got new runners and they're dudes. And so somebody always stayed with me. I think I got more violent because I was more angry with myself. Like this was somebody's dad. And it was my fault for happening. Like the way that everything went down, I get it. Like it was his choice, but I don't know. I just blamed myself. And so I got even more angry. And so they knew me on the block as Trouble. That's what my nickname was. I started being a collector. I would kick in hotel room doors. I would go to people's houses. I was known for putting people in their front yard with pistols in their face. Like I had zero. I was ready to die. I didn't care. It didn't matter. I was 10 feet tall and bulletproof at 14. I had friends that like were going through some simple stuff, like with their parents fighting. And I was just like, y'all are stupid. Like, I'm an adult. Like I'm not, that's child play. I'm not dealing with it. So I just basically stopped talking to everybody and just like focused on what I was doing. And I became this just hateful, mean, vengeful person, and everybody in my path, it didn't matter who you were. So then I started learning how to cook meth. And I started making pretty good profits for myself and watched some people get blown up trying to make old school crank. It was interesting. And then I learned red phosphorus and learned to go bury it. And we used to go steal a bunch of matches and I had a meth head just like getting all the stuff off the matches. And then I learned that they're in flare guns. So then we started going around trying to like buy up all the flares and all this stuff and learning how to do red phosphorus. And I was doing all this nonsense. And then I ran into a couple of the girls that I met at Alexander's barbecue. It didn't dawn on me then, but I was becoming the exact monster that I hated. And I was like trying to protect them, trying to let them do better for themselves. So I offered them a deal. I said, what if I have, mind you, I didn't share this part, but when I was still living in the house with my mom, some of the pimps, they would take me to judges' homes and police officers, lawyers. People had a lot of money. It wasn't like just dealers anymore. There was a specific judge. He had to have been almost in his 80s, if not 80. They took me to his house and he had a hot tub in his bedroom. The man couldn't even get off anymore. And he was paying $2,000 for me for 2 hours just to watch me. And so The man gave me his number, thinking that he could get around the pimp, okay? And so I had all these contacts of these people. And so I hooked up with this other guy named Eric, who's still a free man today, along with that guy G and his brother. And there was another guy who's probably going to say this, and he put a hit out on me after this, but they were pimps for a lot of the girls there. And so I started talking to some of the girls. The first girl, her name was Tiffany. She was 17 when she got stranded on a bus in Amarillo, Texas. And just so happened that the pimps would go out there and they used to take it easy on me if I could scout for them. So they would send me to like football games to talk to the lonely girls. They would buy them like, dresses and new shoes and purses and things like that to like bring them in. I guess I skipped over all that. Sorry. And I did for a while until I finally got out of it. And then I met that girl, Tiffany, and she was telling me how she was 17 and she was stranded, and this guy had found her at the bus stop and like offered a place, put her in a hotel, got her strung out on crack. And I was like, well, what if I could put you in a better hotel? If I could take you away. She was like, I don't even like doing crack, but like I have nothing else to live for. Like I'm so full of shame. And so I was like, well, what if I could offer you a place to stay, offer you more money for what you're doing so that you can get enough money to get home? That was all she was trying to do the whole time. Like here she was turning tricks for over a year. Now she's strung out on crack. Now she can't even make it home. And that was the whole point in it, was like for her to get home. But they had kept her so messed up. And they were very abusive to her. They would beat on her. And obviously any pimp that owned you, I'm going to share this. Might want to let me turn around. Any pimp that owned you, they would tattoo you as property of. And the cops got really hip to it, and they started learning all of their nicknames. And so like if they picked up a girl who had a tattoo, they automatically knew. They were like starting to build cases against some of these pimps. So they switched it up and they started tattooing signs. Like one guy had cherries, another guy would have something different. The last guy who was basically pimping me out, I can't say his name because he's still a free man, tattooed me. And I don't know if you want to get this, but you can see it. See it?
Yeah.
So I noticed that this girl had the same tattoo. And so I made her this offer. I knew that this guy was going to find out. So first it was her, and then it started to be more girls. And I put him up in a nicer hotel off of the boulevard on the highway. It wasn't extremely nice, but it was nicer. I started paying them $200 a pop. Mind you, I was hitting up the clientele that I knew that had abused me, the judges, the lawyers, pastor. And I was making about $2,000, sometimes more. Cell phones started coming in, and I was learning how to answer the phone. I was like basically phone service for this guy, Eric, who was running the operation at first. And then I went out and kind of ventured on my own. So they could call me and they could be like, want a redhead, dressed like a maid. Boom. Okay. So I went out and took the chick, whichever girl it was, to go get the clothes. I would get their nails done. I made sure I cleaned them up so they didn't look like $20 prostitutes anymore. They look like high-end escort girls. And I started basically becoming the monster that had hurt me for so long. And I didn't even see it. I disguised it to myself like I was helping them. This went on for a time. And I didn't have to sell as much. I slowly stopped selling, and I was making so much money off of these girls that I didn't have to sell. Um, my mom is kind of in and out of the picture. Like, I see her every once in a while. I get a phone call every once in a while. Like, she's in this alley, broke down. She's in the hospital, whatever. And so time goes on, and I find out that I have this hit out on me by this man. He is furious. And he starts going from hotel to hotel looking for me. So I had to move back with my stepdad for a little bit of a time. And I was going to the 9th grade. I didn't fit in. School was like torture for me. I started skipping, getting in trouble with my dad a lot. I think he was still angry. And so he would like call the cops on me for skipping school. He would do certain things. And so I left everything in Amarillo and I went to Post, Texas. In Post, Texas, where my dad was. And I would help him with the kids and try to go to school and do all the stuff. And he kept sending me to juvenile. And I had been to juvenile probably 10 times by now, seeing the same judge every time. It was like the same juvenile judge every time. And so the judge was like, what the heck how are you in and out of here so much? Like, he didn't understand. And I had calmed down on the fighting. I had calmed down a lot of the stuff. I tried to make friends. I tried to fit in with my age group. I did not. Okay. Meanwhile, I get pregnant. Go to juvenile. And my dad watches this. He still doesn't know this happened. He's going to be like, what? So one time that I was outside smoking a cigarette on the back porch. Mind you, in the 9th grade, I was smoking a pack a day. I had already been living the life like an adult. So he did not agree with it. And so I would have to sneak. And I was on probation for truancy. And so I went outside. So through our house was like, man, this house was so broke down. Like, it wasn't cool at all. Like, because of my siblings, I'm not going to give details because I don't know how much they want me to tell. But it was not that great. My dad was trying. He was laying brick for the prison that they were building out there in Garza County. He was trying. And so if you walk through, it's like the living room, hallway, bathroom, kitchen, back room. It's a 2-bedroom house. And so through the dining room was the room that I was staying in. And there was the back door to the house. The back door of the house was in that room. And so I would just sneak outside on the side of the house when I thought nobody was paying attention, and smoke a cigarette. Well, he called the cops on me and thought he had went to the back and he didn't see me. He seen car lights from a lady across the street. Her daughter was sneaking out. And so because he seen the brake lights, he assumed that I had went somewhere, right? And so he called the cops. So a few minutes later, I hear sirens. Like, what the heck? So the cops come down and they pick me up. I'm a believer now in God, and I wasn't before. I didn't know anything about God, okay? Mind you. And the cops picked me up and took me to jail. That morning was a Friday morning, and the judge seen me. He said, I'm not going to sentence you. My dad wasn't even aware that this arraignment was happening. And he said, something isn't right. And I don't know what it is, but something is not right. And I'm going to find out what it is. And I wouldn't tell him anything like, I don't know you, dude. Like, I've been coached on not talking to people like you. And so here I was like, okay, find out a way. Like, I don't know what to say to you. And he says, so what's fixing to happen is you're going to go spend the night with your attorney, which was this woman. I don't even remember her name, but I remember the secretary's name. And he said, and then from there, she's going to take you to get some clothes and some hygienes. And then she's going to bring you back to Meg. This lady's name is Meg Nelson. And she was the secretary of the judge. And he says, and then she's going to keep you for a couple of days with her while I get to the bottom of this. What's going on? And so I'm like, what in the hell? I'm like, so what about my dad? He comes and sees me every weekend. Y'all pick me up. He comes and visits me. He talks crap to me the whole time, and like downs me. I know now that it was love. Like he was like trying to get me to do better. But he always came and seen me. And so I was like, what's going to happen? And he was like, oh, don't worry about that. We'll tell him that you got into a fight, which obviously I got into fights often, so it wouldn't have been a surprise. And you can't have visits. And so I'm like, okay. So I leave there that day with the attorney. And she takes me shopping, and I am like so uncomfortable. I'm like, what the hell is the purpose of this? Right. And so I finally just ask her, I'm like, I'm sitting on her couch in her office. And I'm just looking at her and I'm like, ma'am, can I ask you a question? And she was like, yeah, what is it? They're treating me like I'm a 15-year-old, right? Because I am. I'm only 15. And I've been in the streets now on my own for 3 years, like hustling dope and kicking in doors and being a pimp. Like they are looking at me like this sweet, innocent child. And I am looking at them like, you don't know who the hell you're messing with. You know, like, I don't know what was going through my mind. And so I just asked her, I said, what are you trying to get to? Like, what is the point in me coming with you? Like, I don't understand. I feel like I'm being held hostage. I feel like I don't know what to think about the situation. And she was just like, oh, no, you're not being held hostage at all. She was like, I'm sorry that you feel that way. She was like, right now you're in my custody. I have court papers. And she like opened the papers and showed me like she has temporary custody of me from the courts of Garza County, blah, blah, blah. And she says, the judge just wants to figure out what's going on because he's not really sure what to do with you. Because at this point you've been here long enough and he really doesn't want to sentence you to time. And I'm like, time? Okay. Like I am lost. And so she's like, he just wants to figure out your situation, get to know more about you. And I'm like, he could have just asked me, you know, like, yeah, I wouldn't have said anything. But so I stay the night there. She takes me to this woman's house who lives on a lake. I pull up there, and my first impression of this place is her husband pulling up in a pickup, pulling out a wild hog at the back, a dead wild hog out of the back of his truck. And I'm like, oh, I'm fixing to die. These people are fixing to murder me. That's what's going to happen. And I had it in my head, like, be ready at all times. And so this lady, they were super sweet to me. And I remember I went to bed that night in their spare room. And next morning, I'm sitting outside. Mind you, I'm sorry, Meg, I'm telling on you right now. She bought me a pack of cigarettes because I was a smoker. Even though I was 15, I know I was underage. She knew I was underage. She bought me a pack of cigarettes that day that they had brought me. And so next morning, I'm sitting on her back porch, drinking a cup of coffee, smoking a cigarette, looking at the lake. It's a tiny lake. I don't even know how it's considered a lake. Looks like a pond, whatever. So I'm sitting back there and I'm smoking, and I'll never forget this. She came out there in the rocking chair next to me and she said, I know this doesn't make any sense to you right now, but God has a plan for you. And I thought, what is it? Who is God? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I just remembered her mentioning that to me, and it stuck with me, but I didn't think anything about it, right? I'm like, somebody somewhere has a plan for me. Can they tell? Like, loop me in here because I'm lost. And so we get back. So Monday morning, like she just kind of poked and prodded, like wanted to know my background. The whole time I was with her, she was just trying to get information out of me, which obviously I'm not going to tell her everything. And so we get back to the jail Monday morning in Garza County, and they have to put me in a jumpsuit because I've been not there all weekend. So now they're like, all right, hurry up and get into this jumpsuit, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, okay. So I'm putting this jumpsuit on and I see my dad come into the room and I'm standing out there and I'm like, oh, he's going to know. Oh, I know he's going to know. And he just looks at me like with disappointment, like he always does. Or not anymore, he doesn't. But he's just looking at me like, I'm like, dude, you're the one that called the cops on me. Like, you put me in here. But it wasn't. It was my own actions trying to be an adult when he was trying to treat me like a child. And so I get in there and I sat down and this judge sits down and Meg is sitting next to him. And he crosses his arms and he said, today I have a conundrum in front of me. I could sentence this young lady to a year, or I could help. And I'm like, help, whatever help is. I don't want to be in juvenile for a year. And so he says, but today I've decided that maybe I don't have the full picture and maybe I never will. He said, but what I do know is something strange is going on. And even though I haven't gotten down to the bottom of it, I do know that this lady's had a hard life and this young woman needs help. And so today I think I'm going to help her. And I was like, okay, yeah, tell me, how are you going to help me? And so he's like, as of today, you will be emancipated. And I'm like, constipated? What? And I didn't know what he was talking about. He's talking and I'm just sitting there like, what? And so he says, we're going to emancipate you. And you will now be considered an adult in the state of Texas. You can get a job. You can go ahead and get your driver's license. And to further help you, because it seems that school is a problem, getting to and from school. Mind you, most of the time I was helping my dad with the kids. So if I missed school, it was probably because one of the kids missed school or there was a lot of stuff. And so he said, I'm going to help you because school seems to be an issue. We're going to court order you to get your GED. I'm like, okay. He said, and because it is on behalf of the state of Texas, we are court ordering this. The state of Texas will pay for your GED and all classes for you to get your GED. So I'm like, I'm a grown up now? Like, what? I'm confused, but also at the same time, I'm thinking the only place I have to live right now is with my stepdad. And he's furious. He's looking at me like he's ready to turn this table over. Like, how am I going to go home with this guy? And he was angry. And I didn't even say anything to these people. Like, this is their doing all on their own. And so that day, he said, starting next week, you need to be signed up in classes to get prep classes for your GED. You're ordered by the end of the year, blah, blah, blah. This date gave me a date to take your GED test. Have to put in so many hours of classes before, if I don't have my GED before then, like I have so many hours a week that I have to put in. So there was class Tuesday and Thursday nights. I leave there and my dad, I get in the car and he's like, what did you tell them? He's furious. He doesn't know. And I know it's because he was more worried about like what's going to happen to the other kids. And it was like, I know he thought I said something that had caused this to happen, but I didn't. Have my little girl. I go to my first 2 classes, GED, and I'm like, this is for the birds. I don't ever want to come back to this class. So it was my Spanish teacher, my 9th grade Spanish teacher that was actually the GED teacher. He's a really cool guy. He's still a teacher today. He's great. And he's like, I go up and I'm like, look, I think I'm ready. And he's like, no, you're not. I was like, yeah, I am. He's like, may I remind you, young lady, that you were in my class all this past year and you failed Spanish. And I'm like, that was Spanish. He was like, your dad's Mexican. And I'm like, so what? That doesn't mean anything. I'm half Spaniard. So what? I still failed. He's like, I don't think you're ready. And I was like, I am ready. So he went ahead and registered me and I passed, man, with some great scores. Like they were like high scores. And I got a job within that quick, like a week went by and I had a job. I was working a Subway. And then I started car hopping and had my little girl. I had met my ex-husband's mom. He was locked up I didn't even know he existed at first. And then when I found out he did. Anyways, so I moved because people are going to watch this and they're going to have large disagreements, but I don't care. My daughter, Faithlyn, had her at 16. I never felt love like this my entire life. Like for the first time ever, someone loved me just purely because I was me. And I didn't think that was possible, like to love someone like that. And so my daughter one day was outside playing while I was at work. My mom, in one of her sober times, moved in with me. And they kidnapped my daughter right out of my front yard. It was her biological father. Pulled up and took off with her. I then started trying to save up to go to court. An uncle of mine lent me some money so I could fight for her. And in the process of trying to go to court, I moved back to Amarillo. Mind you, I was just emancipated. There was no way my dad was going to let me continue to live there. So I moved back to Amarillo, started babysitting for my ex-husband's mom. She lived outside of town by the airport. So not a whole lot of the dope dealers or the pimps would know where I was. They didn't know that I was back. And so it was kind of like a hiding place for me, like I could hide. And I was living nanny, so I was getting paid. Justin got out. My ex-husband got out of prison. And I started dating him. Mind you, let me go back a little bit. Before I left town, there was a young lady named Erin who invited me to something called a revival. I'm an idiot because I thought she was inviting me to a concert. Mind you, I had just been emancipated, and I seriously thought, like, hell yeah, I'm about to go to my first concert. You know, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, of course I'm going to go to this concert. I did not put two and two together. I showed up, and when I did, I was late, and there was motorcycles in this church, at the front of the church. And these guys were tatted up like head to toe, like their face was tatted, their necks were like everything was tatted up. And I am like, what the heck? So I find the girl and she's like, hey, and I kind of go over there with her. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what kind of concert is this? She was like, oh, they're about to start worship. And I'm like watching these people, they got their hands in the air. Some people are crying and I'm like really uncomfortable. If people don't know me, I will share a little secret. I don't know what to do when people cry. I'm very uncomfortable still to this day. People start crying and I'm like, it's okay. I don't know what to do. So people are like crying and worshiping. And then I'm just like looking around like I'm trying to look for the opportunity to sneak out of here because I am creeped out. 1, 2, I'm very uncomfortable because people are crying and I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what kind of concert is going on here, but I don't want nothing to do with it. And so I'm looking for the best opportunity to like leave. And Erin reaches down and like holding my hand. And I'm like, oh my God, we're not even this close. Like I just played sports with her and we're not even close. So I'm like holding her hand. And I'm like, oh God. So we all sit down and this guy's up there telling his testimony. I didn't know what was going on. And I thought, what a strange stinking concert. Somebody's up there talking. Like normally they just play music, you know? And, but I'd never been. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. This guy starts talking and he's talking about his testimony. He starts talking about, you know, how he was running with the Hells Angels and, you know, several times like his mom got kidnapped, like because he owed people money and they like shot up his mom's house and like all this stuff. He's telling all these stories. And I'm like, man, this guy's a lot like me. And I'm just like listening. And the guy towards the end, they start playing some soft music is going. And this guy at the end of this deal, he's like, if I'm talking to you. And I remember thinking to myself, like, man, this guy and me, we would get along. Like if we sat down together, we would be able to have some conversations. And I start crying. And now I'm mad because I'm crying. I'm not a crier. I don't cry. I cry out of anger. I never cried. I'm not that way anymore. And I'm crying, and my friends she looks over at me, and I'm mad. I'm so ticked off because now I'm crying and I don't know why. And I can't stop it. And so I remember gripping the side of the chair, the bottom of the chair, and I start white knuckling. My mind was telling me one thing, and my body was trying to do the opposite. My mind was telling me how weak I was and how stupid I looked and how dumb this was. And my body gets up. And I'm like, I'm not going up there. And this guy's like doing this invitation. He's like inviting people up. He's like, if you want to come up, I can pray with you and you can give your heart to the Lord. And I'm like, I don't even know what he's talking about. Like, I am completely oblivious to whatever he's talking about, but I'm crying and I am holding on to the seat. I'm not going up there. I'm not going up there. I'm not going up there. And my body is getting up and walking anyway. It was like I had no control. And I walk down this aisle to this man and he prays over me. And I am screaming, bawling. And I left there. And I didn't know anything about God, never went to church, didn't have anything to go off of. I just was like, man, that was a good cry moment. Now suck it up, buttercup, and let's get back to it. And so I left town. Didn't go back to church, didn't think anything about it, just kept on with my life. And moved back to Amarillo. Bad decision. Bad decision. My mom was still in Amarillo, still on the streets, still using. I know my siblings, we've talked about it now, that they were very angry with me for leaving them. My mom was kind of back and forth with them too. Like, she would come and get sober for a couple weeks and go see them, stay at my dad's house. Then she would disappear again. She was dating a woman. They moved in with my dad for a split moment and then moved back out. And so I went back to Amarillo and started babysitting. Met Justin and got my daughter back and got pregnant with my son. And he found out about the hit out on my head. My mom had started coming around just enough to be a bad influence on my ex-husband. He started using with her. And she showed up out there at our place one time and asked the lady I was babysitting for, my ex-husband's mom, to use her van. Bad idea. Bad, horrible idea. As you remember the story of her stealing the guy's car, I was like, do not give her your car keys. Like, do not let her borrow your car. So I needed to get to work. I was working at a Subway on Amarillo Boulevard. And I did not know this was happening. Okay. They had made plans. They did not talk to me about it. And my mom had stayed the night out there. Apparently, while I was asleep, they were having talks. Renee is her name. Love her. She's an awesome lady. So sweet. So oblivious to all of this. Mind you, her son was an addict, so you'd think she would have better understanding, but she did not. She and my mom dropped me off at work. I didn't know what happened from there. A couple hours later, I get a phone call. Do you know where your mom is? And I'm like, she was with you. Where'd you drop her off? She's like, I didn't drop her off. I let her keep the van and I gave her my debit card to go get some groceries while we were here. And I was like, oh my Jesus. This was a bad idea. Like, I'm telling her, like, you're going to have to find a ride home. I'm telling you right now, you're not getting your car back today. And she was like, well, what do? I gave her my debit card. And I was like, why would you give this woman your debit card? I've told you stories. Like, why would you do this? She emptied out my ex-mother-in-law's bank account. 3 days later, we found my ex-mother-in-law's van in the hood in Amarillo on center blocks. No tires, no rims, no stereo, and missing some of her van seats. Why they took the seats, I don't know. But they took the seats out. And so my ex-mother-in-law was just kind of like, this ain't gonna work. So my ex-husband, who I was dating at the time, he was like, you got a hit out on your head anyway. We need to get out of town before they figure out, now that your mom's running and gunning, they're going to figure out that you're out here because your mom now knows where you are. And so he packs us up and we leave to Shamrock, Texas. And I tried to play, again, I'm going to say play. It was a character. I tried to play wife, got married. I think I just turned 17 when I got married. I'd gotten married. I had a kid on the way, had just gotten my daughter back. And so I tried to be wifey, what I thought a wife should be. Mind you, I'm still full of rage, anger, hurt, hate, pain. My husband wasn't allowed to touch me, don't walk up behind me. Everything was a trigger. And I put this fake face on every day. And I was the best mom. Like, we did macaroni necklaces in the middle of the afternoon. We had Sunday breakfasts. I made him chocolate chip pancakes every Sunday. We did picnics. We did backyard band sessions with tennis rackets and water hose things, spigots. I try to be the mom I never had. I try to be the wife that I thought my ex-husband needed. But still, I was tormented in pain. And I was very vile and hateful and controlling to him. And it led him back to addiction and drinking. And it went on for years, 8 years. It was this back and forth. Like, I remember when my grandmother passed, I went to Amarillo and stayed with my grandmother for a little while because I knew she was on hospice. And I called him one night and I said, hey, just letting you know, she's not died yet. I know this sounds horrible, but she's still alive. I'll be here for a little while longer. I'll let you know. I'll keep you updated. I'll call you in the morning. And I heard noise in the background. And so I'm like, I didn't think of this. I moved my mom in several times, right? And so every time she would come move with us, he would get strung out. And then I would be angry with him. I'm the one that let her in there. And I knew she was getting high. I blame myself for that for a lot of years. And I blamed him in the beginning until it dawned on me. And so time goes on and it gets to where we're just not, everything's crazy. And I basically said to him, like, you got to choose this or us, right? And so I go down to Amarillo and my grandmother's passing away. And when I hear this noise in the background, I'm like, what is that? He's like, oh, I'm just watching TV. I'm watching a movie, whatever. And I'm like, oh, it's so loud. And he was like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I got it up loud. Hold on. Give me a minute and I'll turn it down. Well, I think he muted the phone. It got really quiet. And then he was like, is that better? And I was like, yeah, that's way better. I didn't know. I'm stupid. I'm very gullible because I'm trying to convince myself that I am the broken one and that I'm crazy because I was crazy. And so I'm like, okay. A couple hours later, I get a phone call. And he is drunk as all get out. I don't know where I am. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my grandmother just took her last breath. Like, the ambulance is about to come pick her up. And yeah, I'm on the phone with him. And so he says to me, I don't know where I'm at. And I'm like, well, tell me what's around you. I am over an hour and a half away trying to figure out where this man is. And he's like, I was like, what do you see? A red blinking light. Oh, great. He's probably looking at one of them huge antennas up there blinking. So I have no idea. I'm like, I don't know where you are. I had to call his dad at 2:00 in the morning. Well, it's not his dad, it's his grandfather. 2:00 in the morning, I'm calling him. Old man goes to bed by 8:00, okay? Old cowboy. No nonsense kind of dude. I get home that next morning. After my grandmother passes, they came and picked her up. I'm going to go home now and get my kids and get stuff ready to come back for the funeral. I pull up in my driveway and our truck is on one axle and the other part is on the ground. This man was at a bar, sloppy drunk, hit a fire hydrant in the middle of town. It was a stoplight. that he was seeing blinking, because after 10 o'clock, they go to all four-way stop. It was a stoplight. He was in the middle of town. Well, his grandparents had pull. So he didn't go to jail. They just dropped him off at home, let him sleep it off. So I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I can't do this. And so he's like, well, how about we move in with my grandparents? They'll help us. I didn't need help from them. I needed help from him. I didn't know what to do, right? And so I'm like, he's working the oil field. You know how many nights he'd pull up home, throw up from one side of the car? I mean, I'm not joking you. From the trunk of my Ford Escape all the way to the front seat. He had pulled up at the rig, was so drunk that he couldn't work, fell asleep in the trunk, started throwing up, and crawled over all the seats to get to the driver's seat to drive home. This was an everyday thing. Like, it was not abnormal. So I'm like, this isn't working. So he moved in with his grandparents. Worst idea ever. I no longer was allowed to be a mom. She washed all the clothes. She cooked all the meals. She cleaned the house the way she wanted it. The only thing we were to keep in order was our room. And so their house was huge, and it had like we had our own living area and all that stuff in our room. And it got so bad that they were enabling him. I would pour out a whole bottle of vodka. They'd give him another bottle. And it just kept getting worse and kept getting worse. Now his friends are coming over, and I'm going to school online and working at a hotel at nighttime. And so I'm working at night, and I'm going to school. I'm doing my stuff. And he was emptying out our bank account, going and getting high for days, disappearing. I wouldn't know where he was. And the grandparents were completely oblivious to all of it. And the more that I tried to fight for him to get sober, the more alcohol they would give him. And so it didn't make any sense to me. And so finally I said, I was talking to his grandmother late at night, and I would just cry to her, and I said, I don't know what to do. And so she helped me come up with a plan. She said, tell him that you're going to leave him. And I was like, but I don't want to leave. I want him to get sober. And she's like, no, tell him that you're going to leave him. You go stay at a hotel for a couple of nights, and that'll do it. That'll teach him a lesson. And I'm like, okay. So a couple of weeks go by, and I finally get enough gut in me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go do this. The grandmother says, you can leave the kids here, and you just go and tell them you're going to leave. So I go to him, and I'm like, I'm leaving. And he's like, well, if you walk out that door, I want a divorce. And I was like, surely he's bluffing. No, he wasn't. He wasn't bluffing. What I didn't know is, in the meantime, when I wasn't around, the grandparents were telling him that, oh, she's sleeping with other people. She's doing all these other things, convincing him to leave me. And so once we separated and got divorced, I was fighting for the kids, and there came to a point where I had missed, like, we had court, and then I'd get to court and it was canceled. So in his drunken stupor, he overdosed. My ex-husband overdosed. And what I didn't know is that his grandparents had my kids for the weekend during this time that he overdosed. And they went to him and told him, hey, we've got to take your son to the hospital, and we can't find Tamara. And so they gave him this whole story, and they told him that they were just going to let him go to jail, and they weren't going to help him anymore. And they wanted him to sign this paperwork so they would have the authority to take my son to the doctor. So he signed it. He didn't know what it was. So I go to work. I drop the kids off there, and I go to work the next weekend. I didn't know any of this has happened, right? I just take my kids over there for the weekend like I normally do. I went to work at the hotel, and I was there not even an hour, and a constable shows up and asks for me. And I'm like, that's me. Obviously, I'm wearing a name tag. So, I mean, he knew it was me. And he says, you've been served, and hands me papers. And I'm like, served with what? So I'm opening up these papers in a frantic, like trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And it says that I cannot go onto my in-laws' property. And I'm like, it says here that they have a case against me for my kids. And I asked him, I said, what does this mean? Like, I can't go pick up my kids. And he was like, you cannot step foot on that property or you will be arrested. And I'm like, my kids are there. And he was like, again, like I said, you cannot. So I am so confused. Like, I've been through this with my oldest daughter. You can't just take somebody's kids unless it's like the dad. Like, say the dad would have taken the kids, then there was nothing I could do until we went to civil court. So I was terribly confused because their dad wasn't even staying there. He was in and out of wherever the heck he was doing. And so I was like, why can't I go on that property? And he was like, ma'am, I'm telling you now, if you show up there, you will be arrested. And so I am just lost. So I start saving up, start doing things, stupid things, to save up to get my kids. Come to find out that he signed his rights over, and now they were fighting on behalf of him. So in the process of this, they also have my oldest daughter. Okay. They called her dad and her grandparents to come get her. So in the middle of the night, they meet up at a gas station and drop my daughter off. Now CPS gets involved. CPS shows up at my doorstep. I have a house. What a lot of people don't know is that the house that I was in, this church people, they came in and approached me and they said, hey, we have a third-party person that wants to help you out, get into this house, blah, blah, blah. They're willing to pay the down payment, the first month, and the last month's rent. And so I'm like, that's awesome. That's weird, but awesome. And so I had gotten into this house, and the church came to me again and told me that these people, because they were fighting me for my car, because my car was in his grandmother's name and my ex-husband's name, even though it was my car. I made all the payments, but they wanted the car back. And so the church approached me, and this pastor told me, like, somebody came to us and they want to give you $2,000 for a car. So I take this and I get this stupid Cavalier that had no AC. It was horrible. And I find out that his grandparents are the people. They were trying to keep me away. And so I'm like, I'm not living here anymore, and I'm not taking this car. So I went and traded the car in. I went and moved back into Shamrock, because I was in Wheeler. I moved back into Shamrock, and I'm fighting for my kids. We go to court. It's canceled. I go to court again. It's canceled. So now we're 7 months in. I have only gotten to see my kids 3 times in 7 months. I finally got supervised visits where a mediator would come. I made friends with the mediator. She was one of the cops' wives that I dealt with a lot while my ex-husband was going through all his stuff. And so she come into the house and she said to me, this is going to be your last visit. And I said, what do you mean? She was like, because you missed court yesterday. And I was like, the hell I did. I didn't have a court yesterday. I was like, for who? She was like, for Philip and Taylor. And I was like, no, I didn't have court. She was like, yes, they had an emergency call on the docket. It was a last minute call. They set it in place the day before, and you didn't show up. I was livid. I went to my attorney's office, who should be in jail anyways. I called and called and called. It's Friday, mind you. I'm seeing the kids Friday, so it's Friday. And I called and I called and I called. And I will never forget what my son said to me that day. He was a mama's boy. And I knew saying bye that it would be a long time before I seen them again. So I hugged my youngest daughter, told her I loved her, and she kind of giggled and was playing around. She was young. She was barely 3. And my son was about to be 5. And he looked at me and I said, Philip, I want you to know that I love you so much. And then it'll be a little while before I see you, but Mama's going to come and get you. He looked up at me and he said, I'm not going to be bad. I promise. I'll behave. I don't want to not see you anymore. I just want you to come home. My kid had thought it was because I was angry with him. And I didn't know what they were saying to him. And that broke me in the worst kind of way. And I went Monday morning. The lawyer still wasn't returning my phone calls. And so Monday morning, I went to the attorney's office, and I was like, I'm not leaving here until I see this man. And when he came in the door, he knew immediately. And he said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know there must have been a miscommunication. I don't know if my office just didn't get a hold of you. I know it was on our side, but we could go back to court in 6 months. I had gotten so depressed that I was dressing my kids up like dolls, talking to them, trying to feed them. And people thought I was losing it. I was losing it. Okay, I was losing it. And in this process of me trying to fight for my kids, I let my mom move back in with me because I knew I was losing it, man. Who does this? I was doing it. I'd painted the room and acted like my kids were there, and I would tuck them into bed every night. And I was so depressed. And this guy turns to me and says to me, 6 more months. I'm like, dude, do you know what it's like to wake up and not hear footsteps run into your house, to not have anybody to cook breakfast for not having to get up and put kids and take kids to school? Like, this was my whole life. Mind you, I went from being a pimp, a drug dealer, doing these things, to being a mom, and I poured everything that I had. My whole identity was in my kids. And to wake up one morning and not have them was crazy. And then you're telling me 6 more months, I can go back to court. I lost it. So my mom was living with me, and I was resorted back to some dealing to try to make money to pay for the fees. And the guy that I was dating at the time was an addict. And him and my mom had been using together. I didn't think nothing of it. But that day when I left that man's office, I showed up to my house, and this guy and my mom were in my room. And at this point, my mom was shooting up. And I remember walking in, and like it was like I wasn't even there. Like, they didn't even notice me. They didn't see me. They didn't say anything to me. And I was so furious and broken that I told her. She was pulling it back in the spoon, and I said, if you make one up, make me one up too. She laughed at me. And the guy that I was dating laughed at me. And my mom said, that's not who you are. You're better than that. And I said, are you freaking kidding me? How can you say that I'm better when everybody in my entire life has chosen dope over me? Obviously, there's something good about that, because y'all have chose it over me every single time. My husband, my mom, my biological father's nowhere to be found. This has ruined my entire life, but I'm better than this. And she just laughed. She was like, that girl, that is not who you are. And I remember being so mad. I was like, I'm not kidding. Make me one up. So they, as a joke, made me one up and set the syringe on the desk. And I said, if y'all do that, I'm going to do mine next. And they laughed and chuckled and kind of made jokes, which just infuriated me more. So they both did theirs. And I was like, get out so I can do mine, because I'm not going to do it in front of you. I was a medical assistant and a CNA for a lot of times, like while I was married, in between, I worked as a CNA. So I knew how to draw blood. I knew how to do all this stuff. And so it wasn't like I didn't know what I was doing. But I had told him to exit out of the room. And I slumped down on the side of the bed and pulled my knees to my chest. And I just sat there and cried. Like, they didn't even ask me about my kids. They didn't. This whole time that I was going through all this stuff, I had isolated from everybody. Like, didn't talk to my dad, didn't talk to any of my siblings, didn't talk to anybody. And I was just so far lost. And it was like nobody cared. Nobody noticed. And so I was like, I can't do this. And I took it and I put it in the top drawer of the desk, closed the drawer. My mom came in. She's like, "Did you do it?" And I like tried to play it off like, "Oh yeah, I did. Y'all got to leave me alone." And she was like, "You're so hilarious." And she opened up the drawer and set it back on top, almost like taunting me. And that's that day I put a needle in my arm out of anger and hate and fury, just wanting to feel nothing, wanting to be numb, wanting to see what everybody in my life, what was worth giving me up. And that led to a year-long addiction. I pulled my car into the police station and I called the dealer and I said, "Come get it. I'm not paying on it anymore. I'm done." And they came and picked up the car, I guess, I hope. I don't know whatever happened to it. I just parked it in the police station parking lot. I called the landlord of the house. I lived catty corner from the police station, okay? While I was selling drugs, trying to make money to get my kids. Cops never bothered me. My ex-husband actually ran into the police station one night. He was army crawling on my yard after we were separated and divorced. Well, we weren't divorced yet because the papers didn't get signed until way later. But we were already separated. And I opened up my door and I said, "Justin." And he sprinted across the deal and ran into the police station. And they didn't arrest him. They called his grandparents to come pick him up. So if that tells you anything about how corrupt that whole place is. Anyways, so I started off on this deal and I called the landlord and I said, "I don't want anything in the house. I'm not paying rent. I'm not living there anymore. You're going to have to send somebody to clean it out." So this was intentional. Like I didn't just accidentally become an addict. Like I intentionally wanted to feel numb. I intentionally wanted to experience what is it that was so great that my mom was willing to give everything up, was willing to walk away from her nursing job. She was going to school for a nurse practitioner. I couldn't do it anymore. And I was tired of being the strong one. I was tired of being the one that made things happen. I was tired of being the responsible one. And that's what my mom said to me that day. She was like, "Oh, Miss Responsible." You know, they would laugh and they would call me the warden, and they still call me the warden. I was always the one that people called to get things done. Like if they needed something, they always called me. And I was tired of it. Like, where is everybody when I need them? They're not around. And so I walked away from the house, walked away from my vehicle, and started couch hopping. I was homeless. I was living from couch to couch. I would sleep wherever I landed. And I dealed enough to stay high. And it was really crazy because I got arrested. Something stupid. And they let me right back out. Like I was out within 24 hours. And didn't think anything about it, just kept going on with my life. And so got arrested again. Again, I was out in 24 hours. Bonded myself out the third time. That was actually a possession charge. That was not even mine, but it didn't matter. So during this year, something that this town had never done before they had did. And it saved my life, honestly. They had a year-long sealed investigation. I had no idea. Just in the time that I was in my addiction, they had a new sheriff that was running who never showed his face, never knew who he was, never seen him. I am in the middle of my addiction. At this point, I hadn't seen my kids in months again. I was walking in and out. I was selling, but not selling. I was just kind of like third-party middleman kind of deal. And then I started to get where I was selling because the guy that I was dating was like, "We're doing too much. We need to, make money up." And we fought, like fist fought, cats and dogs. Like there was holes all throughout the house with my body print and his body print, just like everywhere. Like I was so angry. I was fighting everybody. And so I started moving weight from Amarillo with some of the old people that I knew. And I was transporting it back and forth. And during this year-long investigation that I didn't even know was happening, I had done some pretty shady stuff. But I still had morals. I wouldn't sell to anybody who was pregnant. And I told them, you better not sell to them. I started using the Walmart trash bags that were blue and put my dope in it because it would turn the dope blue. And that way, if somebody had my dope, I would know. And so I was doing this stupid crap, all while geetered out of my mind. So I come across this friend of mine, and he's like, hey, you need to come stay with me, because he knew me before the dope, okay? And so he was like, hey, you're getting way out of hand. You weigh like 90 pounds. You're completely ate up. Like you're not in a good place. Like, come stay with me. So he takes me to McLean, and I stay with him. And I was still using, obviously. He let me use his truck to go back and forth. Me and that guy broke up. And so he's like, you can come stay with me. You don't have to stay out wherever. And he and I got into an argument because I was like, dude, I'm going back to Shamrock. And he's like, no, you don't need to. You need to like rest, relax, like eat something. And dude, I probably weighed, if you'll see some of the pictures, like 90 pounds. Like, I was a horrible place. And right before this, I got arrested when I bonded myself out. I had to hitchhike a ride home because our town was so small. They took me to Childress County to hold me because they couldn't hold me. So I had to make bail from Childress County. Well, when I bonded out, I hitchhiked a ride with this old couple. They were sweet as ever. I thought they were like serial killers. They had to have been. They were like, oh, don't mess with my dog. He won't hurt you. And so they had this like little dog and this little Yorkie or something that just like barked their face off at me the whole ride. And instead of taking me back to Shamrock, they took me to Amarillo. And so I show up to my aunt's house. And the whole time, my aunt talked so much trash to me. Mind you, she was the one that called the cops on me a long time ago for doing some other stuff. But anyways, the one that called CPS on me numerous times. Anyways, I went to her house thinking, maybe, just maybe, she will help me. That was the biggest mistake ever in my life. Instead, she degraded me, talked about how skinny I was and how many track marks I had and how disgusting it was. And I was like, can you just please give me a ride back to Shamrock? And she was like, no, I'm not giving you a ride back nowhere, but you can't stay here either. And I'm like, so I said, can I at least take a shower? So she let me take a shower. I got dressed and I tried to call all these different people. And I had like, I'm not going to do dope anymore. That's what I told myself. I'm not getting high no more. I'm just going to go to Shamrock and get all my stuff. What stuff? I didn't even have any stuff. I was lying to myself. I had nothing but a backpack and some clothes at a few friends' house. Like, that clothes was that important. So nobody would give me a ride except for the one person that would come and get me was a dealer. And as soon as I get in the vehicle, he's like, here's a half ounce. If you take this and get on top, like, I don't like seeing you down. Like, try to make it like, man, it can't nobody see no pimp down. Like, try to talk me up, like, get me all hyped up. And I was like, man, I'm good. Like, I'm good. I didn't take it at the time. And I went back to Shamrock and I started staying with this guy. And started slowly getting back into doing dope. And I had been up for like 3 or 4 days. And he was getting mad at me. He was like, I don't know. I think he started liking me. I don't know what happened because he knew I was going back to see the old guy that I used to date. Like, I was driving back and forth to see him. And we kind of got into it. And he was like, you're not taking my truck. I'm not letting you take my truck. And I'm like, well, you're being stupid. I'm going anyway. So somebody had gifted me. It's funny because it wasn't even close to my birthday. They gave me like a half gallon of Crown Royal. And he was like, are you going to at least give me some? And I was like, no. He was like, just give me a shot. Like, take a shot with me. It's your birthday. And I was like, okay. It was not anywhere near my birthday. That's how delirious I am. It's nowhere near my birthday. Birthday's in December. This is the middle of summer. So he takes it, opens it, takes a shot, closes it, puts it back in my backpack. So I'm like, I'm walking. I'm going to walk to Shamrock. It's like a 16, if you look it up, from McLean, Texas to Shamrock, it's like a 16 to 18 mile walk. Okay. And it's I-40, 6-lane highway. And I am walking and it's like 11 o'clock at night. I start walking and I had this pink razor in my back pocket and I was listening to music. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I'm hyped up. I'm physical, get high. I don't care anymore. Now I'm mad and screw it all. Like, I'm going to get high. And so I'm walking. And back then you couldn't just you had to have a playlist. Like you had to actually download songs and you had to have your songs. Somehow, in the midst of all this, I'm listening to Zero and Lil Wayne. That was my kind of music. So that's what I'm listening to. And out of nowhere, the song I Can Only Imagine comes on. Now I'm crying. Now I'm mad. I get so angry. And I'm like, why am I crying? I never heard the song before. Again, the only part of God was that one lady saying that one comment to me and going to that concert revival. And so the song comes on and I'm just bawling. Now I'm mad and I'm bawling. Now I'm mad because I'm bawling. And I just don't know what to do with all these emotions. And I am just so far depressed, angry. I don't know what to do with this. Mind you, a couple weeks before this, the fire department kicked in the door. I was staying at this guy's house, and I had been out for days and locked everybody out, and he was out of town. And so the dope dealer had the fire department called. So everybody knew I was bat crap crazy at this point. Same guy, I kicked in his door and pulled him outside in his front yard with a pistol in his mouth because he called my mom and spoke horribly to her. I don't know. That's how nuts I was at this point. So I am walking and I am just bawling. And the song goes off and the phone dies. And I'm like, pulled pink razor out of my pocket and I'm like, crap. So whatever, fine. I just take it back in my pocket, take my earphones out, and I see a bridge and I am just bawling and I can't control it. And I don't know where it's coming from and I don't know how to stop it. And I see a bridge and I think to myself, why are you even trying? What? This is your life right now. Is this really what you want? You fought your whole life to not turn out like your mom. That was I didn't have a goal. If you asked me what my dream was, it was to never be like my mom. And here I am, homeless, strung out, with nothing, and my kids aren't here. If that didn't sound like my mom, I didn't know what did. Now I'm so angry. And I'm like, that's it. I'm going to go on this bridge and I'm going to jump. I'm done. So I get up onto this bridge right outside of Shamrock, a little bitty town. And the bridge is like an old school bridge where it's just 2 lanes. There's no lights. And so I get up there and I'm standing on the ledge. I take my backpack off and I throw it on the ground. And I get up there and I start cussing God. I'm like, you sorry SOB, you what kind of God? And I'm just up there screaming and cussing. And I'm like, what kind of God would give me to a family that would do the things that they did to me? What kind of God, if you really exist, you suck. And I'm up there just cussing them. And I remember right at the end, I screamed and I said, God, if you're really up there, if you're real, you've got to do something because I can't. I'm done. And that little stupid pink razor in my back pocket rang. How? I don't know. It was dead. I know it was dead. I checked it. It rang. And it was my ex-husband on the other line. He didn't know what I was doing. He had no idea. He knew I took off walking because I had texted him and told him I had taken off walking and I was walking on the highway. And he was like, somebody's coming to get you, blah, 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 blah. And I'm got distracted enough to get down off the ledge. And this girl comes and picks me up off the side of the road. I'm 2 miles outside of town. Dude, I already walked 16 miles. Give me a break. I could have made it 2 more. And so she picks me up. Mind you, this chick had a blue warrant. Her name was Bobby. And she had a blue warrant out. And I remember briefly why I paid attention. I don't know. But we hit welcome into Wheeler County. As soon as we hit past that sign, red and blues light us up. We pull off. They didn't even arrest her. She had a blue warrant out. They didn't arrest her. They arrested me. I had open container, one, so I thought, well, the worst thing's going to happen is I'm going to go to jail for the night and I'll be out tomorrow with the open container ticket. There was scales under the passenger seat. and they used a kit to test the scales, and it had dope residue on it. So I get arrested, and less than 15 minutes ago, I was literally screaming at God on this bridge. And I end up in jail. And so I slept the whole time I was in county jail for the first 3 days. I didn't even try to bond myself out. I just slept. Um, that's how much I needed sleep. Um, mind you, just not too long ago, me and my mom got into a fist fight right before this, because I wouldn't give her any more dope. And she like tried to steal my rent check. And I ended up cracking a couple of her ribs, busting her lip, like her teeth went through her lip. She held me down 3 different times, and I blacked out because she was choking me. My mom is a broad dyke chick, like big old girl. And I didn't touch her at first, but she had made it out to everybody else like I was just so horrible, like I had just beat her, and I didn't. I had to take up for myself because she was literally fixing to kill me. And so anyways, so everybody in town already thought I was horrible, like this horrible person. Nobody wanted to be around me, whatever. So I'm in jail and I'm thinking about all this, and I'm thinking like my mom picked up and moved. Like I got so bad, she didn't even want to be around me. That's how bad it got. Her and her girlfriend packed up and left my house. They were like, when I talked to her later on, she was like, girl, you were horrible. Like you were bad. And I was like, I know, but you don't leave. Like I stuck by you like all these years, even after you had me robbed and all this other stuff. Like you don't leave. And so I was sitting there thinking about all this, like, this is crazy. And they took me back to Childress County. And I remember getting there the first day, sleeping, and this Hispanic lady on the bunk across from me would be praying all day and all night. Older. She was in her 50s or 60s. And she was just praying constantly every time I woke up because I slept. So every time I woke up, she was there. And I was like, this lady's nuts. And I was like, I'm going back to bed. And then she would come and wake me up for lunch. And then I would eat, and then I would go back to bed. Well, one day I woke up and there was a Bible at the end of my bed. And I'm not thinking nothing about it. And I'm like, go back to sleep. Sleeping it off. I'd been up for weeks, probably. I know I'd been up for at least 3 days. And so I'm just sleeping. And my bond was like $50,000, $60,000, something like that. And I knew I didn't have it. So I wasn't even worried about getting out. So I ended up doing 60 days, I think, for a PR bond, 60 days, whatever it is. And in that process of that time, they started to the lady came to me and asked me, like, can I pray with you? Can I speak to you? And she started talking to me, and I wasn't making really friends. I was just there. And so the more and more, I didn't have nothing else to do. So I started reading the Bible, and a little bit, I started asking questions, and I didn't quite yet give my life to Christ, I don't think, but I acknowledged it. Okay, maybe there is a God. I did tell him to show me, and here I am. And so I got released on a PR bond, knowing that this investigation was going on. Now I know that this investigation is going on. My ex-husband gets out of jail. He was in jail. And he's like, let's try to make things work. So I find this house, man, this is crazy. Okay. I told you I started reading the Bible, and I felt like God was talking to me. And one day he said, go find a house. And I was like, I ain't got no money. I ain't got I ain't got a car, I ain't got a job, I ain't got no money, I ain't got nothing. So I was sleeping on somebody's couch right after I got out of jail. And crazy. I started walking, and there was this house for rent. And so I was like, ooh, I want to go see this house. So my ex-husband was already trying to make things work, right? And so I was like, hey, can you come see this house with me? And he was like, are you trying to get a house? I was like, yes and no. So he was like, fine, I'll come with you to go see it. So he pulls up, I go in, these people show up, a Hispanic family show up, they show me the house, and they don't really speak any English. And my Spanish is not that great. And so it's real chopped up. And so I explained to her I was looking for a place if I could see it. And so they walked me around the house. And in the process, my ex-husband was like, how much money you got for this house? And I was like, I ain't got nothing. I got like $20 in my pocket. And he was like, oh, then why are we even looking at this house? And I was like, I don't know. I felt like I was led to look at the house. So we get done and I walk outside and the couple is sitting out there with their little kids. And I told the lady, thank you for showing me. And so she tells me, what time? She keeps telling me what time. Like, I think she was trying to ask me when I want to move in. And I was like, I don't have the money right now. No más dinero. And so I was telling her I don't have no money for the house, for the casa. And she said, oh, no. So she starts trying to tell her daughter. And her daughter is like maybe 9. And her daughter says, no, my mom wants to know, when do you want to move in? And I said, can you tell your mom that I don't have all the money right now for the house? But I will let her know if I get the money before she rents it. If she rents it before, then that's fine. And she said, okay. She turned around and talked to her mom. And she said, no, my mom wants to know when you can move in. And I was like confused. And the lady took my hand and put the keys in my hand. And her daughter said, my mom said that she just wants to help you, that you don't owe her any money for the deposit or the first month's rent, and that she's going to let you live here for 3 months so you can start on your feet. I was like, what? This is insane. I go into the house and the daughter tells me, my mom said if it's okay that you can clean out the house because there was people staying there that were illegal, and we had immigration come through our town, and they all ran. They were all working in the oil field and stuff. And so everything, there was beds in every room, there was couches, there was TVs, there was dishes, there was everything. Mind you, I had nothing. And you would have thought I would have taken that as a sign, but I screwed it up. My ex-husband came and moved in. He was using, and I started using with him. And I was losing it. Like, the drugs were getting worse. Somebody put something in my drug called jet fuel is what they called it. I don't know what that is. They dropped it into the spoon, and I heard voices under my house for like 2 days. My ex-husband disappeared running through cornfields. I only know this because I got a call from county jail, and he had convinced them that he had lost his mind. He was parked on the side of the road on a service road. And the cop pulled up. He was trying to flag people down to get something to drink. There was a store not even a mile up the road. Okay, mind you, he did not walk to the store. When the cops pulled up, he told them that he had lost his keys, he told me he ran out of gas, and then he lost his keys. So the officer asked him, "Is anybody in the truck with you?" He said, "No, it's just my wife." And so they were expecting to go to the truck and see me. So they come back to the car and they told him, "There's nobody in the truck, sir." They parked in front, right? So the cop is parked in front of his truck. And so he tells the cop, he says, look, she's sitting on the top of the hood of my truck. And the officer turns and he says, no, you got to look in your rearview mirror. And so he tells the cop, look, she's on the hood of my truck. You see the gold bra? So this cop, and he was like, look, sir, if she's not there, I'm letting you know now that I am schizophrenic and I have not had my medication for days. So if she's not there, then you need to take me to the hospital. He was skits out of his mind. He had been smoking dope for a week, not been asleep. And so he had told this cop this and said he was schizophrenic. He is schizophrenic. Justin's a good dude. Just saying that right now. We were both really bad in a bad way. And so they took him to jail and towed our truck to the police impound. And when he called me, he said, go pick up the truck first. It's very imperative that you pick the truck up first. And I'm like, okay. So I had somebody take me to the police impound to get this truck. There was so much dope inside this truck. He had cut a hole in the floorboard and stuffed a quarter ounce of dope underneath the floorboard. There, if you've ever seen like melted dope, there was melted dope all down the steering wheel. There was a loaded rig in the door and one in the ashtray of this pickup truck that I'm about to drive to the police station to pick him up. Out of our minds. So he comes home and he's like, oh, I'm going to make it up to you. I'm going to make it up to you. He's been gone for days. I don't know where he's been. There is corn husk in the grill of the pickup. I don't know. I guess he went off-roading. He doesn't know. He doesn't even know how he ended up where he was or where he was when he was picked up. I asked him, what jail are you in? I have no idea. He didn't even know where he was. So we get into a big argument that day. And I'm like, I'm going to the game room. I'd started like working part-time at the game room, trying to like come up with money because I'm about to have to start paying rent on this place because it's almost 3 months. We go to the game room and he follows me up there. Like I am furious with him because I was telling him no more dope, no more nothing. And he takes off. And when I call him, I'm like, where are you? He walks in the door with his hand full of dope, like trying to convince me like it's okay. Like he's making up. And I was furious. I was like, dude, I keep telling you, like I'm trying to do the right thing and not get high. I'm trying to get back on track. And that was his way of apologizing, was like handing me a bag of dope. And so we go up to the game room and he follows me up there, and at least a dozen police officers come in with rifles in our face, get on the ground, get on the ground. And I am like, mind you, I was trying to preach to the dope heads. When I moved into this house, that's how I started using it again, because I was over there preaching to them. He gave my number to his boss, who was the oil field worker, trying to get me to find him prostitutes. Like I got so furious. I was like, hey, puff, puff, pass right here. And I just started in with it. And so we all get on the ground. When they arrested us like that because of his background, not because of mine. He was affiliated, and he's very known to be violent with the police, and how he's never done more time than he has is crazy to me. But his grandparents had a lot of money and they did get him out of a lot of crap. So they arrest us. We get in there and they sit us side by side. And they're like, well, let's start with you, Miss Cook, because that was my married name. And I was like, okay. So I'm sitting there like, you ain't got nothing on me. Boy, I was a liar. Manufacturing and delivering under a gram. Manufacturing and delivering under a gram. Manufacturing and delivering under a gram. And it just kept coming. There was 7 charges that they had served me with in that one moment. I was like, I already knew I was going to go to prison because the possession charge before, but now I have 7 more charges. Like, where the heck did these come from? I heard that they were doing a sealed investigation. Had nothing. I didn't think it had anything to do with me. Yeah, it did. I was part of it. I was their main opponent. And so what had happened is it was ghost dope. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, what that is, but ghost dope is basically they don't have to have any drugs to test. They don't have to have anything. It's just hearsay. Like, so if you were to call me looking for something and I said, hey, go to this person, and if you got dope from that person, it's ghost dope. So I am the reason why you got the dope, and so therefore I get the charge too. And of course, I'm always being the nice person. Like if somebody messages me trying to get dope, if I didn't have it, I'm always like, hey, yeah, talk to Juan or call Julio or whatever, you know? And so they had all of this stuff on me that I had I'm like, test the dope. Like, how do you know it's dope? Like, I don't know. So then they give him 2 charges. He gets a year of prison time. And they come at me. I waited in county jail for like 9 months. Like waiting. And then I finally go to court. And while I was in county jail, this part I didn't skip past. While I was in county jail waiting for these charges, the attorney for my kids found out I had a criminal case against me, the one that helped me fight for my kids. And he came to the county jail and he said, hey, I know this isn't the court case that you were hoping for, he said, but I technically owe you like $4,000. And so if you want me to be your attorney, I can be your attorney for this court case and hopefully get you on some probation. And so my stupid mind, not realizing that he was part of the problem, he had been paid. I didn't know this until later on. But anyways, he offered to be my attorney. This should have been my red flag. No attorney's knocking your door down to go do your case for free or to give you money back. And so I thought it was a good thing. And so I'm like, yeah, please help me. And so he's supposed to go fight for me. So we go to court and it's going to be time for sentencing. And so they strike a deal, 18-month state jail. Okay. And so I'm like, whatever, I'll go down for 18 months. He's like, dude, you have 9 months already behind you. You'll go down there and do 8 months and get out. So he was like, just put this behind you. Let's sign for the 18, get this over with. So I'm like, whatever. Okay. Well, we get into I'm in this little office thing, and he comes in there with all the paperwork for me to sign. 7 charges. Okay. So he's like, all right, 18 months. He's showing me the 18 months. He's like, they all basically say the same thing. And I was like, okay, well, I don't need to read all of them. Obviously, they're all exactly the same charge, same sentencing. So I was like, are you sure they're all the same? He's like, yeah. So I'm like, all right. So he just flips the page. I sign. He flips the page. I sign. He was like, well, you only have to sign for these 3. I was like, okay, cool. So the other 4 are going to be dropped. He was like, yeah, those are ones going to be dropped. I was like, okay. He comes back and he says, look, the judge said the 18 months is only if you plead guilty to all 7 charges. So I'm like, what the heck? Whatever. They're all run CC concurrent. So, I mean, it's not going to matter if I sign 7 or if I sign 50. It's all the same amount. So I was like, whatever, give me the paperwork. And I finished signing the rest of the pages. I go in front of the judge. Mind you, the same judge, when I was going through my whole divorce thing, he was like, about time, you opened your eyes and woke up. This is the judge that told me this about my ex-husband. So I'm standing there, and he starts reading off my sentencing, 18 months, 18 months, 18 months, 18 months. And then he gets to the last one, and he says, 7 years TDC. I was like, whoa, hold on, wait a minute. Wait. That I did not agree to 7 years TDC time. And he said, is this not your signature? And I was like, yeah, it is my signature, but I was not informed of a 7-year TDC. And he's like, ma'am, that's something you need to take up with your attorney. But this paperwork in front of me is already signed. And so my attorney's like, don't worry, it's not the same as state jail. You won't do day for day. You'll be out in, the same amount of time. They'll run it all together. You've already got this time done. And I am so confused. I'm like, how did that? He's like, I didn't even know that it was different than the other ones. And he gave me all these stupid things and had me convinced I was going to go do 8 months and come back. This is not what happened. I did almost 4 years. So I did 3 years and 2 months in TDC plus my 9 months of county time. So while I'm in prison, it was the craziest thing, because I wish I could say that the worst thing was the food or the people. It was not. The worst thing ever in my entire life is, one, I had this very cute old couple that were so sweet to me, in the middle of the night, packed me up to go take me to prison. Okay. So here I am. I can't sleep. I'm nervous. I'm going all the way to Plain State Jail, which is over by Houston. Mind you, I'm in Wheeler, Texas, or in Childress, Texas when they picked me up. So it's a long drive, 6-7 hour drive. So I am in this backseat, and I am tossing and turning. They have a pillow. They have a blanket. I'm in street clothes. I am not in a jumpsuit. I am in regular, ordinary street clothes that they put me back in, that I got arrested in, which obviously now I'm too fat for because I weighed 90 pounds coming in. So I got these clothes on, and they stop at a gas station like 5 miles down the street from the jail they picked me up at. I have no handcuffs, no shackles, no nothing. And they were like, do you want something to drink? And I was like, yeah, if I can get a Gatorade or something. And they were like, oh yeah, come on and come get it. They let me out of this van, no shackles, no handcuffs, in street clothes. And I did not run. Why I did not run, I have no earthly idea why I did not run. But they were so nice to me. They were like, oh, go ahead and go get it and come back. We'll meet you at the counter. You need to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, what? I am like, and hills have eyes, like this uncomfortable niceness is weird. And so I get back in the van, and they're transporting me down. And mind you, I was raised in the hood. So I spent a lot of time like in the projects and running that life that I lived. I have 3 mixed breed sisters. And so I thought it would be a funny idea to entertain myself along the way. And so I'm in the back seat. These people are talking to me like I am the sweetest little girl they've ever met. And obviously, I weighed 100 pounds maybe. I was real soft-spoken. I was nervous. I didn't know what to do. And so I was talking to them, and I was like, do you think that there's like a lot of mean people at this jail? And the old lady, it's this old retired cop and his wife, and they're like in their 70s, 80s, right? And so she was like, oh, honey, I wouldn't worry about it. It's okay. Just kind of keep your head down and stay to yourself. And I was like, but I am so scared. Like, is there going to be a lot of Black people like it's in Houston, right? And she was like, yeah, it's close to Houston, but it's okay, hon. You're not going to be the minority. It's going to be okay. Just take a deep breath and don't be nervous. And I am just like going on about how like, I don't want to be anybody's snow bunny. And this is what I'm telling her. And she's just like, oh, honey, it's okay. You're not going to be anybody's snow bunny. So when we pull up to the gate, okay, they were like, do you want something to eat? This is like your last meal before going into prison. And I'm like, heck yeah, I want some pancakes from McDonald's. If I had known they were going to serve me pancakes all my life in prison, I would have not asked for pancakes as my last meal. Okay, this was stupid. So we get there and they pull into McDonald's and we're only like 5 minutes away from the prison. So I'm like trying to scarf it down. We pull up into the gate and there's like two dykes, cornrows in their hair, like big old ladies at the front gate. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be somebody's snow bunny. And like, they're like, that lady is like, oh my God, honey, please don't cry. You're going to make me cry. Please don't cry. And I'm like, I'm kind of laughing to myself. And that's what I get, because what happened next was the most horrific place or thing that has ever happened to me in my life. They drop me off. I get out and they're like, we'll take your bag in. You don't have to worry about it. We're going to take your bag in. So I go in and the guy is like he's watching me go into this place and he's like looking sad as ever. And he hands the bag over. And so I'm just kind of like laughing to myself, like they probably really fell for that. I'm from the hood. Like this wasn't going to faze me. I was wrong. There was two older ladies in their 60s at least standing next to me. And they close the door, boom, like this horrible sound, like rings all over the place. This huge building, you probably already know, like this huge just room, just open, huge room. Showers off to the corner, a bunch of naked people walking around. And these two guards are standing here. One has a flashlight in her hand and they are screaming at me, get over there, get on that side of the line. And like, I don't know what to do. I am nervous. I am freaking out. I'm like, I don't know what to listen to. And we go through the whole thing, like, take your clothes off, take your pants off. And I'm like trying to take my shirt. And then I go to my pants and I'm like, I don't know what to take off first. I'm so lost and so confused. And so I'm like, I'm trying to not freak out. And this lady, they're both screaming at me and both of them different directions. Like they're different instructions, both of them. And so finally, the one lady with the flashlight is like screaming. She's standing right in front of me and she's screaming at me, take your clothes off and put them out in front of you. And so I'm like, I'm taking them off and I'm like shaking it and dropping it to the floor. And they go through like, I'm standing there butt naked with these two elderly women, both of them completely gray haired women. And they look like professionals because they knew exactly what they were doing. They were taking their clothes off. They were, they were like 5 steps ahead of me. And here I am like so confused. I don't know which way is up. And so I am like, I've never been, my past, going through all that, I've never been comfortable with my body. I wore baggy clothes my whole life, covered up. I was not a person. So I am standing here naked, so uncomfortable. And this lady is screaming at me. And I am trying to do what she's asking me, but I am so confused. She's like, show me this hole, show me that hole, bend backwards so I can see this, spread this. And I'm like, what are you saying? And she's got this flashlight like this, so close to me. I am like, this is horrible. And I am like on the verge and I start crying and I'm like, oh my God, you stupid. You look so weak right now. Like, look at these older women. These two old ladies are like outdoing you right now. They're not even punks. You're over here crying. So I'm like talking myself up. The lady finally says, put your arms out, do this, do that, right? And then she tells me to turn around. Nothing could have prepared me. Lift up your feet, show me this, right? Go through the whole thing. And then she says, spread your cheeks. So I turn around in all my ignorance and go, she screamed at me so loud. And she got like a foot or 2 foot from my face and it's like screaming at me, are you stupid? And I'm like, I don't know what you want. Turn around and spread your butt cheeks. And I was like, you could have said butt cheeks. I would have understood. Okay. Got it. Turn around. I spread my butt cheeks and then she's screaming at me, bend over. And so I bend over and she's like, I want to see both holes. So I turn around like an idiot and open my mouth again, thinking, what other 2 holes could you be seeing from the backside of me? Not dawning on me what she was talking about. Finally, she's got this flashlight a foot from my butt, screaming the most awful things at me. And I realized what she's saying. And I broke. In that moment, I could have never done another day in jail, and I would have got the whole message. I would have gotten it and never went back. I was just like, oh my gosh, she's saying what I think she's saying. Okay, I'm crying. I'm shocked. I'm scared. And then they tell me to walk all the way across the room to the showers with this little bar of soap. And I bend over to pick up my clothes, thinking I've got to put my clothes back on. The other two women are gone. They're butt naked walking across the building. And I bend over to pick my clothes up, and she went crazy on me. If you do that one more time, if you touch that, you are now state property, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. So I walked to go shower. It took me 2 days to go through intake. I had to stay in that cold room in a paper gown for 2 days sitting in there. That was the worst part of prison. That, to me, it was the absolute worst. Over the next year, I refused to be institutionalized. I'm not getting up. I'm not scrubbing. I watched all these women like scrubbing their floor with maxi pads and bleach that they stole out of the laundry. I was like, I'm not conforming. If you're not going to force me to conform, I'm going to do my time and I'm going to get out of here. That first year was horrible. Days went by so slow. I had no purpose. I was counting down hours because they had told me I was going to get out in a couple of months because I'd already had so much back time. My first hearing comes up. Denied. I was like, they lied to me. Like, it's dawning on me right now. They lied to me. Second hearing. This year I'm doing, because I was there 2 months before I seen parole. Same parole, they denied me. That year was horrible. I didn't make any friends. I didn't talk to anybody. I got on went to Plain State. Plain State should be shut down. The maintenance bosses, I didn't want to be stuck in the cell all day. And the only jobs you had there were like laundry, kitchen, and maintenance. And so I was like, I need to get a job. I need to go do something. And so I got one of the maintenance bosses he asked me like, what can you do? And I was like, can you just give me a job? He's like, well, what can you do? And I was like, anything you need me to. He's like, your tools. And I was like, yeah. So they got me a job and I got the lay-in to go work the next day. That was a horrible decision. All the girls in the maintenance department were like sleeping with each other. It was state jail. So a lot of the girls were getting out and they didn't care. So the maintenance bosses were like, so when you go into the way that the dorms are, you can go into the back where it's the pipe chase at, and it's got the ceiling, but then there's a part in between the ceiling and the roof inside this maintenance place. And he would take these girls up there and watch and let them entertain him. And they would leave me at the door for watch. And I was like, this is sick. Like, y'all are sick. He was doing it. They were doing it for like, dude, I'm not kidding you, for Skittles and soda pops that he was bringing in for them. Just things that he could get off of commissary. Dude, you can get it off commissary yourself. But he would let them screw around. And like, I was like, oh, I got to get out of here. This is so bad. My baby sister shows up. She got arrested and she shows up on the same jail, Plain State. She ended up getting 5 years. And she had to go do all of her time. So we seen each other. So that was kind of like an uplift for me. Like, oh man, that sucks that she's here, but I'm glad that she's getting sober and she's off the streets. Mind you, my siblings, I still have multiple siblings that are still in addiction, still going through all this stuff. I see them, I talk to them, I love them. My sister Jasmine, great. She has, I have relationships somewhat with some of them. With the others, I don't talk to at all. So I'm like, dude, I need to get out of here. Like, these dudes, like, I'm going to be caught up in some whole stuff because I got TDC time. And a lot of these inmates, because part of it is state jail and part of it's holdover for TDC. I'm in the holdover for TDC. It was so freaking cold in the dorm that I was in. I got transferred in January. It was so cold. I could see people walking in the other 3 dorms and they had shorts and t-shirts on. In our dorm, I had to use both set of clothes that they gave me and both blankets, and I was so freezing. We had no heat in that dorm. Breakfast, I found like bugs and I found a baby mouse in my oatmeal one time that was dead. And I lost so much weight, and then they don't feed you but twice on the weekends. And so I was like, I had lost more weight when I got there to Plain State. I had lost at least 15 pounds in the few months that I was there in Plain State. But I did good for myself because when I left and went to TDC, I automatically was a maintenance hand. So I had a job already given to me when I got to TDC grounds. That first year, I didn't want to conform. After my second denial, I finally was like, okay. The whole time, all I had to read was my Bible. Okay. The Bible that was given to me in county jail, I got to bring with me. That's the only thing you get to bring. That and I think 5 pictures or something like that. And so all I had was my Bible. And so I spent that whole year in my bunk by myself reading my Bible. After my second denial, I got into the choir and started doing choir. And then I started doing chaplain's helper, keeping myself busy. Mind you, the first time they kicked me out after intake, I went to Gatesville prison. And so the Seven Satellites, I ended up going to trustee camp. They kicked me out of the main building and was like, just walk across the street. And I was like, you gonna shoot me? They just literally told you like, walk over there. And you're like, there's no gates. There's a street. Like there's no change. I'm not bound, nothing. I was so confused. I had to strip at least 7 times a day because I worked maintenance. So we would go work on all the 7 satellites. So we had to strip in and strip out at every unit that we went to. So first thing in the morning, strip out, strip in across the street, strip out to leave there, get to the next place, strip out or strip in to get there. So it was awful. But I finally started getting to this place where I was following God and I was getting into my Bible and I was, God was just healing me. I think I was finally, for the first time ever, being able to sit down and journal through some of my thoughts, some of my things. I did my time completely alone. No visits, no visitation, no phone calls, no money in my books, no nothing. And it was funny to me because one day I was sitting in my bunk and it was like, I literally heard God speak to me like, what are you going to do now? Because I've always been a hustler. I've always been able to have what I need. And I didn't. I couldn't. I had no way. How was I going to make money? How was I going to do anything to take care of myself? For the first time in my life, I was completely helpless. And there was nothing I could do that I thought of. Like when I was a kid, that was different because I was a kid. I had no opportunity that I couldn't be helpless. So ever since 13, you wouldn't have found me needing help from anybody. I finally started getting involved with church and started doing things and started trying to go down the right path and making the right decisions and healing for the first time ever. And my mom was also locked up at the same time as my sister and me, and she was writing me, and her letters infuriated me. Every time I would get a letter, it was like shifting blame, blaming someone else, acting like we were best friends. And it just infuriated me. So I stopped opening her letters. My ex-husband was in jail at the same time too. So he was writing me and he would like tell me everything he thought I wanted to hear. He knew I was finding God. It was like, and then I would get his letters and he wouldn't talk about anything. He had 2 rules in his house: don't cry and don't lie. So he was just very unemotional. Like, I think he told me I love you not more than a handful of times. And so here he was writing, like these people are all writing me and it's like empty words, empty, just nothing. Like I just stopped opening mail, stopped responding. And I did my time by myself. And when I got released with the $50 in my pocket and the money, or the $50 in my pocket and the clothes on my back. And I put in to go to my dad's. They denied it. I put in to go to a halfway house, Patsy's Place in Amarillo, Texas. They denied it. I put in to go over there where my ex-husband was. They denied it. And I was like, where do you want me to go? My friend, who I'm friends with still, Linda Smith, she put in an I-60 and she put in her friend's address, who I didn't know. They approved it. I went to a old man's house who is in his late 60s, who does not know me, and I do not know him, in a rundown trailer without the roof on the back room. The bathroom is falling in, and he went and got a phone company to put a phone line in his house so that I could come there. It was crazy. Like, how in the world did you approve this, right? And so I get out, and immediately people on Facebook start hitting me up, like, hey, if you come down here, we can get you back on your feet. You can come down here. It was like all my dope dealers, people I used to run with. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Mind you, while I was locked up, The guy who had a hit out on me when I was 15, his wife was locked up with me. And her and I actually became friends. I was able to minister to her, and she came up and apologized. She was like, I'm so sorry that you went through the things that you went through. I'm sorry that, all of this was happening. You don't have to worry about that anymore. Um, it was just like a whole thing. And it was crazy. And so when I got out, I was like, dude, I'm not going back. I'm not going down that road again. And I stayed in that ran down house for months, walking back and forth, trying to find a job until the old man he bought an extra vehicle and he was like, hey, you can drive my truck. And so I started paying the insurance on the truck and got a job as a CNA, taking care of disabled veterans. I had one of my clients, he was blind. It was really cool. He could fry chicken, dude. I was like, are you going to start a fire? He's like, well, I have had the fire department called before, but he cooked the best fried chicken I've ever had. And so like I was getting started. I was going to AA meetings. I refused to go to NA meetings. It was the 13th step for me that I just couldn't get behind.
How old are you when you got out?
Oh my God. It's 2016. It was June of 2016. So I've been out 10 years. Yeah, I've been out 10 years. So I was 30 or 28, I guess. Yeah, because I was arrested at 24, got out, went back. So yeah.
And you did, 4 years inside?
Yeah.
About 4
So
years.
9 county and then 3 and some months in TDC.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy, crazy, crazy. It was, you talk about a disgusting mess. The guards were sleeping. You think you'd be safe hiring women guards to be women guards. No, that didn't work. You had these women guards sleeping with the women. You had, they were stealing stuff from the kitchen. Some of the maintenance bosses, not all of them, there was some really good maintenance. Some of my boss was a really good boss. He kept his distance. Like, yeah, every once in a while he'd like stop by Peachtree and like let us grab the peaches or whatever. Or if he had a soda in the refrigerator and we grabbed it and snuck off, like he didn't say anything. But he was a really good boss. But there were some that some of the other girls would try to recruit me to like go work on their crew so they could screw around. And it was sickening. You had people in there that had been in and out for so much time in prison that it was like their home. And they treated it like their home. Like they would get mad at you if they thought you were like imposing on their way of living. Some of the ladies like got medical leave, so they didn't have to have a job. So they would sit up in the bunk all day long, like running the show. Like it was ridiculous. I spent most of my time working out and in my Bible. That was it. That's all I did. But it was, some of those people, like one of my bunkies had been there for like 9 years and it was her third time being there. And I was like, at what point, dude, do you like be sick of it? Like at what point are you done? She actually taught me for the first time how to actually take care of myself. I didn't know how to treat myself as a lady. I had a prostitute teach me how to shave my legs. Crazy, right? But this woman told me one time, she said, spend time with you. Fall in love with you. I didn't know what that meant. And I was like, I spend time with myself. I'm with myself all day long. And she's like, that's not what I mean. And so there was some good things that happened in it, but most definitely some crazy things. And not to mention, so like people who are trans, we had a mix. So we would get like, no, not trans. Yeah, some trans. And there was a hermaphrodite that came. And that was like awful because the whole dorm turned into like something bad. Like they were all sleeping with this. It looked like a dude, but had boobs that were hairy, like a dude's hairy chest. And like he had the women's private parts, but he also had the men's private parts. So it was really strange. But that whole dorm, like it was nuts all the time. They were fighting. It was crazy. And the guards were allowing it to happen. It was the weirdest thing. So once I got out of all of that, out of prison, man, it was just like, I didn't know how to be. I didn't leave anywhere. I didn't want to go talk to anybody. I didn't want to make friends. I went to the AA meetings because it was court made me. go. So I had to go get my paper signed. Parole, I had to check into parole, and then I worked, and that was it. And afterwards, I was really lonely. And I met a guy who he said he was a Christian and all this other stuff, like Christian mingle, whatever. He was a liar. He was an addict, an alcoholic. He was a manipulator, narcissistic. And I ended up getting pregnant. Mind you, at this time, I had cervical cancer and wasn't supposed to be able to get pregnant. I got pregnant. And before I went in to get my post-op done for my surgery to have a hysterectomy. They told me it'll be 7 to 8 months. And I was like, what do you mean? Why? He was like, because you're pregnant. I said, well, you're a liar, because I had birth control in, and here I am, going through treatment because I'm supposed to be having a hysterectomy because I have cancer, cervical cancer. And no, I was pregnant. So they were like, you have these options, terminate the pregnancy, whatever. So I stayed pregnant. I tried to stay with the dad. He beat the living tar out of me almost every day. And not because I couldn't fight back, but because I wouldn't. I came to this place in my life where I was trying to be the soft person that I knew I could be, and live right and love people and not be so full of hate. I'd finally, for the first time, received peace in my life and forgiven everybody and wanted to move forward. And I allowed myself to become a doormat. And he picked up a couch and dropped it on my head with big old claw feet and cracked this bone behind my skull, slammed my head in a car door and cracked this side. So I had like a big old goose egg here one time, and then a goose egg. It was horrible. And whenever I was pregnant, he would just beat the crap out of me, lock me out of my car, lock me out of the house, turn the whole house upside down, poison the turtles, turn the fish tank over, flooded the whole house, took a fire extinguisher and like sprayed me in the face with it all around the house. It was insane. And I went through this for 2 years, 3 years, 3 years. And I had my son prematurely, my little autistic son. He is a huge blessing to me. I don't know where I would be without him. I think that because of him, I finally pulled up and like, okay, I'm not a doormat. I don't need to be doing this. I was trying to be involved in like ministry and do things. And this guy was like so controlling. Kratom, I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah.
He started getting strung out on Kratom, and everybody was like, Kratom's not bad. It's legal. It's this, it's that. Let me tell you something. I had to pay for him to go to treatment twice. Kratom made him drop over 80 pounds in a year. He looked horrible. He looked like crypt keepers. He was awful. And that stuff was the worst thing I've ever seen anybody strung out on ever before. Body cramps, the withdrawals, sweats, tremors. Like I thought he had a seizure a couple of times. Like it was awful. And I decided I'm not going to let my son be around this anymore. I can't. My son at the time was nonverbal. He wasn't talking. He's high level autistic. So he didn't talk until almost 3. And so I had to get out of there, and I ran, and I did. I ran off, and I got this great job with the company that I work at now. Cool thing is I learned my trade for free in prison, being a plumber and a pipe fitter. And so when I got out, I didn't have to take any training. I started out as an apprentice, and I started my job, and they paid me really well. I moved up very, very quick. I think that's why my current husband hated me then. No, that's not why. So a girl that I knew from prison gave me the information for this place. She hated me. I don't even know why she tried to get me hired on there, but they hired me. And for the first time in my life, I was making a 401k. I have stock in the company. I started like climbing up really quickly. Now I do takeoff estimating. So I design the very systems I used to install. I actually just designed a prison just like a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, are y'all hilarious or not? Like, y'all give me a TDC job because y'all knew that I was locked up. And they were like, no, that's not why we gave it to you, but it's funny though. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's not funny at all. So for the first time, and I got to just, my mom moved back in with me. Okay. Healed me now. brings my mom from Amarillo, still strung out, still doing the same stuff my mom has always done. I move her in with me. And she was crazy. My mom was nuts. She was getting high still, and I knew she was because, stop it right now. Because my mom, one time I came home and I had just started dating my now husband, Colby. And when we came in the door, she was vacuuming out the stuffing in my couch, bro. Like the whole like cut a hole in my couch and had the whole vacuum cleaner in there vacuuming the stuffing out of there. And so my husband asked her, like, what are you doing? She was like, there's bugs or parasites in here. And she's like, and I knew she was twacked out. Like, I was like, oh my God, she's losing it. Again, here we are again. She managed to find, anywhere she goes, she finds somebody else that can give her drugs. Like, she's always done this her whole life. Anywhere she goes, she knows where to find drugs. And so he tells her, like, don't you think Tamara's going to be upset? And she's like, oh no, it's okay. And she reaches into the vacuum cleaner and pulls out all the stuffing and puts it back in the couch. He's like, I thought there were parasites in there. She's like, oh, it's okay. It's okay. And she's just like putting it back in the couch. Like, it was crazy. So me being sober, trying to remain sober, now with my mom living with me, using. I didn't know this till later on, but when I was dating my husband, he found a needle in my bathroom and a spoon. And he didn't say anything to me. He doesn't know anything about it. His background has nothing to do with all this stuff. So time goes on and we have a conversation, and I was telling him about my B12 shots that I have to take. And I was like, man, I stress out trying to get myself a B12 shot. It takes me like 30 minutes to hype myself up just to be able to like do it, because it freaks me out because of my past. And he's like, oh yeah, I seen your needle in your bathroom cabinet. And I'm like, my needles are in my bedroom drawer. Like, what? And there's a big difference between a needle to shoot up with and a big, huge needle for a B12 shot, right? Like the B12 shot is like this big of a needle. I swear it's 1.5 inches. Just, I'm not being exaggerating here. And so I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, it's in your bathroom. So I go to my bathroom and I open up the deal. And there is a spoon that's fully loaded with a half-loaded syringe right next to it. And I wanted to kick my mom out, but I couldn't. I couldn't. I knew that she was broken and she was struggling, and I needed to help. And that led me to when my husband and I moved in together. She moved in with us. And I finally started to help her heal. I finally got to, mind you, we couldn't talk about anything because for the most of the time, she would get very defensive. She would deflect and deny. She would fight with me. She would call me a liar. I'm like, Mom, I have the scars. Like, I can show you. And she's like, well, I don't remember any of that. Like, she had literally like blocked everything out. But a 1.5 years before my mom passed, she had the opportunity to minister to her, to counsel her, to help her. She finally got sober, and she was doing decently well, except for the one time that she stole my husband's truck. So we had some money that we just got married, and we met on the job site. He hated me. He really didn't like me at all. He dated this girl that I was locked up with, and she told him a bunch of crap, and my husband did not like me. And so when we started dating, it was really funny. We were learning a lot that neither one of us knew each other at all. And we worked at the same company for years. And so when we finally got married, I was already like, dude, you have no idea what you're getting into. Like, he didn't know all my past. And so I was like, I knew he came from a good family, a good Christian family that raised him well. And he was not used to all this. And so my mom stayed at home one weekend. And we had money that somebody had given us, like $300 or $400 inside of an envelope in our nightstand. And he had his pistol with the lockbox and his second truck key, which was like 3 weeks old. Mind you, he just got this truck. And he had it all in this box, and the key was in the top drawer where the money was. We came home late Sunday. Monday, he calls me on his way home, and he says, I had no gas in my truck this morning. And I was like, what? He's like, my truck was on empty. I was like, well, did you forget? He's like, no, I know I stopped Friday. It's on my bank account. I stopped Friday and like fueled completely up. Like I filled my tank up. And I was like, well, that's weird. When he got to the house, I opened the truck and there's like beer cans and extra chargers, and his brass knuckles were missing. His pain pills, he just had knee surgery. His pain pills were missing. And I was like, oh my God, I already know what happened. Like, dude, my mom stole your truck. I don't know how to break it to you. I don't know how, like, it's embarrassing. I don't know what to say. We've been married not even 6 months, right? And I'm like, this dude's going to leave me because my mom's crazy. And we went and told my mom. When I confronted her, I wanted to be mad. He wanted to be mad. We both wanted to kick her out of the house. That is not what happened. She caught us so off guard. And I think this is where she really started sobering up, because we showed grace and compassion towards her. But honestly, it was so funny because we confronted her and we were like, somebody took the truck out for a joyride and brought the keys back and put it back in the box, took the money. And she was like, oh my gosh, somebody broke in while I was here. They could have done anything with me. They could have had their way. And we were like, we couldn't do anything but laugh. My mom is like full-fledged dyke, muscular, don't give a crap about nobody. You really think somebody was going to break in and have their way? Like, do you honestly think we believe this? Not only did they break in and take the truck and the money, but they broke in to bring it back. Like, this doesn't make any sense. But in that week, she started talking to me, started healing, started going through things. And a little over a year ago, my mom called me every couple times a week, and we went through counseling over the phone, trying to help her heal. And she called me and we were laughing. I was like, dude, I seen a TikTok, and the TikTok said, like, who's the one person you can't take to a funeral? And I was like, my mom. And we were laughing. She's like, why me? And I was like, dude, because you crack too many jokes. Like, we can't sit together. And so she was laughing. We were laughing. And she said, how crazy would it be? This was on a Friday. She said, how crazy would it be if you did my funeral? Now that you're a minister, because my husband and I are both ordained ministers. We're youth pastors. We have a street ministry and we do jail ministry. And she says, how cool would it be if you did my funeral? And I was like, dude, we're not talking about this right now. Like, you ain't going nowhere. I was like, we're not talking about this. I'm just have to go into the jail. I was on my way to the jail in Collin County to minister to the ladies up there. So I was like, I'm getting off the phone. I'll call you later. I'll talk to you later. And she was like, okay. I was like, well, it's almost Easter Sunday. We're going to be up there. She said, I want to see if your sister can come pick me up and go spend time with them. And I was like, okay, cool. Let me know if you need anything from me, like gas money, cigarette money, whatever. Because we took care of her. My husband and I took care of her financially after she moved out of our house. She moved in with my sister to help my sister. And she was staying with her best friend at this time. And Sunday came. She messaged me and she said, hey, your sister and brothers can't come get me. I'm trying not to be upset about it. I'm not going to take it personal. Like, she was going through all this stuff I had been teaching her. I'm not going to get upset about it. And she says, can you send me some money to go have dinner? I'm like, yeah, I can send you some money. But Mom, because her disability, she was in a wheelchair. She was having compression on her spine or something where she couldn't use her legs right. She had COPD, she had asthma. She wasn't getting around really well. She wasn't breathing at all. She was hospitalized like every couple months because she would get so low on oxygen. And so I said, look, if I'll send you money. You and your friend can go and eat. It was her ex-girlfriend. She called her wife. I said, I will send you money to go eat on, and some money for cigarettes, but you have to shower, take a bath, do these things. And she was like, and I was like, Mom, dude, you have to. She's like, I don't have anybody to help me. It's so hard. I was like, I get that, but you have to. I don't know how long it's been, but I can tell you it's been too long. So she showers and she takes a shower and she gets dressed. She does her makeup. Mind you, before my mom left and she started believing in God, I said, what's the one thing that God would have to do for you to believe in him? And this crazy lady was obsessed with dying, apparently. And she says, I'd want to not be alone when I die. And I would want not to be a burden. And I would want it to go fast so that I wasn't a burden. Nobody had to wipe my butt or take care of me. And I was like, that's okay. But, I was like, Mom, it don't have to be something when you die. She was like, this is the only thing I care about. Like, this is the part. I don't want to be a burden to y'all. And she said, oh yeah, and clean underwear. And I was like, you'll be dead. What do you care? And she was like, no, I need clean underwear because like, dude, that's my worst fear is dying and having nasty underwear when they pick me up. I'm like, you'll be dead. You won't even know what they'll be saying. And she was like, no, I'll know because I know I have dirty underwear on. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that day, fast forward a year and a half later, she's talking to me and she's like, okay, I'm showered. Can you send me the money now? Like she sent me like randomly for the first time ever in my life, my mom sent a message out to all of us siblings, all 8 of us, and said, it was like some dancing deal. And she was like, I love you. I love you so much. And then she sent one to me like separately and said, I want you to know I'm very proud of you for turning your life around. And I'm very proud of you. And I thought, okay, I was too busy to respond back after that because we were leaving my husband's parents' house and we'd been out there all day and I didn't respond. And by the time we got to the house, it was too late. I was like, dude, she's probably asleep. And so I forgot about it and I went to bed. I got a phone call at probably like 10 o'clock at night, not even 10 o'clock, that she'd been hit by a car. She was crossing the street going to dinner in her wheelchair. And she'd never even seen the car coming. She was yelling at a 18-wheeler driver who had stopped and turned his hazards on. He had his hazards on for her to cross. And her best friend was with her. They were going to go eat. And so she was yelling jokes at the 18-wheeler, like, you don't got to wait for this old hag or, whatever, like back and forth. And the car came out of nowhere and hit her from behind. She died instantly on impact. No pain, no feeling. She died there with her best friend. She didn't die alone. She wasn't a burden because the lady's insurance paid for my mom's funeral. It took time. I had to pay first and they had to pay me back, which was okay. And she was fresh and clean. When my sister called me from the hospital, she said, sis, Mom looks beautiful. And I thought, our mom has just been pulverized by a car. How in the hell can she look beautiful? And she said, I'm sending you a picture. I said, okay. She sent me a picture. My mom's makeup was done. My mom was a dyke. She didn't do makeup. Bro, my mom's hair was curled. Her makeup was done. It's crazy. After that, my sister gave her life to Christ, listening to what my mom had gone through, right? And so now looking back at like everything, right? I'm not angry anymore. Prison saved me in a way that I know that you can get down there and like, right? I know that a lot of people get down there and get worse. Like they learn how to do things they shouldn't be doing. They hook up, they get girlfriends, they sleep with the guards, they do drugs. You can get anything you want in there. Just what it is. Women's prison works different because they're a bunch of narcs on each other. They don't want to see each other get ahead. So women's prison is completely different from men's prison because I was a guard in a men's prison. So I know how it operates. But for me, prison was different. It saved my life. Like it forced me to heal from things from my childhood. It forced me to look at how angry I was. It forced me, I had to call my ex-husband and write my ex-husband and apologize for the monster. I had become the monster that I hated. And it's pretty stinking hard to sit in prison and realize that you become a monster to a lot of other people, including my own kids. And that right there is humbling. We think that our own actions don't screw with other people. I'm just hurting me. That's not true. Everything that we do impacts other people. And so I had to sit in prison and realize I had become the monster I hated. The very thing that I despised, I'd become. And I had to forgive my mom because I realized how easy it was to become a monster in someone else's story. And since prison, I have not looked back. I have not relapsed. I have been sober now going on 14 years. I got married. I felt love for the first time in my life. Peace that I didn't think another person could love you like that. I honestly thought my husband was creepy. I almost left him. I never experienced that. But now we have a street ministry, jail ministry. We are youth pastors. My kids are back in my life, all but one. He's still angry with me, my son. We bought our first house. God's just moving. Everything is different. And I'm finally, for the first time, able to look back and think, that should have took me out, but it didn't. And so now I fight to help people getting out of prison, to help people not go to prison, to help people on the streets. I used to speak at events for human trafficking because I knew the signs. I knew how to spot it. I knew what to look for. I knew how it started, how they lure girls in. And I learned in prison that I didn't have to be in the prison. I didn't have to be angry. I didn't have to be in this prison. That everything that I went through had some kind of purpose if I would just see it for what it was and heal and use that as a stepping stool. And so since prison, I will fight tooth and nail to help anybody out of those situations because it's not the end. And it took prison to show me that it wasn't my fault and that I could heal and still be something and still do something with my life. So now work at a company making more money than I've ever thought about making, with a really good, cushy 401k so I can retire. Insurance that's great. Never had that. I have an amazing husband who pours into me, who builds me up. And I watch him break because he's like, man, you don't look like what you came from. I watch you. And honestly, when I tell my testimony, when I tell my story to people, they have hate for my mom. I had people who hated my mom because of my story. And I'm writing a book right now that I didn't finish because I didn't want to hurt my mom, knowing that she was trying to heal. I didn't want to hurt my dad. Coming on the show, I wouldn't have done a year and a half ago because my mom was still alive, because I knew she was trying to heal. But this podcast, I think prison's not the end, man. Human trafficking, we can come back from that. If it didn't kill you, there's an opportunity. And I love watching your podcast, man. It's like comeback stories for real. Real life people going through real life crap and finding a way to come back from that, to do something different, to be somebody different. And I just love that. To me, that's the best thing ever.
Well, we're glad to have you a part of it.
I'm excited. I love it.
What a story. Definitely needs to be the book, and whatever comes after that, because there's obviously so much more into it, but you told it so beautifully, and we appreciate you. The audience appreciates you, and it's one hell of an episode, that's for sure.
Yeah, it'll be a lot. I know that. Probably a lot of bleeping and buzzing words, but that's okay.
No, I mean, we keep it, pretty raw and unedited, minus our bathroom breaks. But other than that, thank you for coming on the show today. This was awesome.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And man, it means a lot to me.
Of course.
Changes lives one life at a time.